Chapter 2542. Don't slander me. Hearing the discussions of the crowd, Yang Chong's expression changed slightly. However, Yang Chong was after all the fourth prince of the Divine Wind Empire, a late first-order quasi-emperor. In this situation, he quickly regained his composure. Taking a deep breath, Yang Chong looked coldly at Ningyu and said, "You said that I have the Emperor's spiritual liquid on me. What evidence do you have? Don't tell me you want to search me. Without evidence, I won't search you." Ningyu said indifferently. Ha ha ha. Yang Chong threw his head back and laughed wildly, then said, "You dare to slander me without evidence? I think you're tired of living." Speaking up to hear, Yang Chong directly turned to stare at Yang Yumming and said fiercely, "You better control your people. Trouble comes from the mouth. If you say there's no, then there's no." Ningyu did not care about Yang Chong. He shrugged and said indifferently, "The Emperor's spiritual liquid has all been lost. As for who stole it, I think everyone has a judgment in their hearts." This brother is right. Yang Shue's eyes flickered, he thought about it, and finally decided to add insult to injury. He and Yang Chong had a competitive relationship. If he could drag Yang Chong down now, he would naturally have one less competitor in the arena later. To tell the truth, whether Yang Chong stole the Emperor's spiritual liquid or not, Yang Shui did not care at all. He only knew that Ningyu had created a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. As long as he could make use of it, he could make Yang Chong and Yang Yumming fight first. Yang Shui took a step forward, first pointing at Ningyu, then at Yang Chong, and said, "Whether you have the Emperor's spiritual liquid or not, logically speaking, has nothing to do with us, but if you really stole fifth brother's Emperor's spiritual liquid, then we'll have a good talk today. Ninth brother, you want to be my enemy?" Yang Chong's face was frighteningly cold. How could he not know what Yang Shui meant? Taking advantage of this gap to sow discord between him and Yang Yumming. No matter who won in the end, one would be kicked out. Be your enemy? No, no, no. I don't want to be your enemy. Yang Shui kept shaking his head and said, "Justice is in the hearts of the people. I have a great Emperor's elixir detection crystal here. As long as you get close to a warrior with great Emperor's elixir, it will automatically glow." Whoosh. During the conversation, Yang Shui flicked his wrist and threw the crystal towards Yang Chong. Damn it. Yang Chong did not know if the crystal was real or fake, but he was very clear that if the crystal was real, he would not be able to explain himself today. Therefore, a cold light shot out from Yang Chong's body, shattering the crystal before it could even get close to him. Catcher. The shattered crystals fell to the ground continuously. Boom. However, Yang Chong had clearly underestimated Yang Shui. Since Yang Shui wanted to scheme against him, he would definitely do it without fail. In front of everyone, the shattered crystal was put back together again. Furthermore, after the crystals were assembled, a pillar of light soared into the sky. Hua! Seeing the light pillar soaring into the sky, the surrounding cultivators were all startled. Originally, they did not believe that Yang Chong would be stupid enough to steal the great Emperor's spirit liquid. However, they had no choice but to believe it now. Although some of them were skeptical, most of them chose to believe it. Fifth brother. The pillar of light flashed and quickly disappeared. After the pillar of light disappeared, Yang Shui looked at Yang Yumming and said, "Fourth brother stole your great Emperor's spirit liquid. Aren't you going to settle this?" "That's right. I suggest that fourth brother and fifth brother spar first." The 13th prince, Yang Qinghao, agreed. A spar between fourth brother and fifth brother will definitely be very exciting. The 18th prince and Yang Zhaokai also said. The 13th prince and the 18th prince did not participate previously because they were afraid of falling into Ningyu's trap. However, now, Yang Shui participated first and drew the fire to himself. Naturally, the 13th prince and the 18th prince had to add fuel to the fire. "All right. Fifth brother, I accept your challenge." Yang Chong looked around coldly. Then, he took a deep breath and said sternly, "However, before we spar, I have a condition. Whoever loses must give up the fight for the crown prince position and give the other party an emperor-grade medicinal pill." Yang Yumming did not answer Yang Chong immediately. Sparring right now was not Yang Yumming's true intention. After all, there was going to be an arena battle later. If he fought Yang Chong now, it would obviously benefit others. Furthermore, Yang Yuming knew that if Yang Chong dared to challenge him, it meant that Yang Chong was not weak. Although he could win in a life-and-death battle, he would still have to pay a price. The princes are of noble status. How about this? Let me play with your advisor. Ning Yu would not let Yang Yuming fight. He took a step forward and pointed at the elder behind Yang Chong. Your advisor is an early-stage rank 4 quasi-emperor and is extremely strong. If I spar with him, the chances of me winning are very low. Therefore, I feel that we should change the condition to 10 emperor-grade medicinal pills. Whoosh. Hearing Ning Yu's words, the surrounding martial artists were somewhat stunned. 10 emperor-grade medicinal pills right off the bat. Could it be that Ning Yu thought that he could win for sure? Yang Chong's advisor was an early-stage rank 4 quasi-emperor. Everyone was very clear. After one's cultivation reached the mid-stage rank 4 quasi-emperor, there would be a qualitative leap in one's strength. Ning Yu was a rank 3 quasi-emperor. If he really fought with an early-stage rank 4 quasi-emperor, it was very likely that he would not even be able to withstand one move. Good. A hint of excitement appeared in Yang Chong's eyes. Sure enough, he was courting death. Jiao Wu. Yang Chong said coldly, go and play with Ning Yu. Remember, don't hurt him. Got it. Jiao Wu nodded and moved his feet. He stopped in front of Ning Yu and made an inviting gesture. Don't be anxious. Ning Yu would not fight with Jiao Wu just like that. He said in a clear voice, Fourth Prince, take out 10 emperor-grade medicinal pills first. Only then will I spar with Jiao Wu. You. Yang Chong's lungs were about to explode. Where was he going to find 10 emperor-grade medicinal pills? Could it be that the sparring with Jiao Wu that Ning Yu said was just a stalling tactic? After all, he definitely did not have 10 emperor-grade medicinal pills. I only have 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills. Yang Chong took out a jade bottle and said, as long as you can defeat Jiao Wu, I will give these 2 medicinal pills to you. Only 2? Ning Yu pursed his lips and said reluctantly, all right, 2 it is. Count it as my bad luck. Jiao Wu, entertain Ning Yu well, Yang Chong said coldly. Swish. As soon as Yang Chong's voice fell, Jiao Wu's feet stepped on the ground and his body suddenly rushed out. Jiao Wu's speed was very fast. In almost an instant, he arrived in front of Ning Yu. A fist containing terrifying energy smashed ruthlessly toward Ning Yu's head. Just by looking at this attack, how could Jiao Wu have any intention of sparring? He clearly wanted to kill Ning Yu. Chapter 2543. Want to kill me? Looking at the incoming fist, Ning Yu did not have any intention of dodging. From the beginning, he knew that Yang Chong had the intention to kill him. The reason why he took the initiative to challenge Jiao Wu was because he could tell that Jiao Wu was not an early-stage 4th-order quasi-emperor, but a mid-stage 4th-order quasi-emperor. Furthermore, he sensed a familiar aura from Jiao Wu's body. Very likely, Jiao Wu was a sky demon expert. He forced Jiao Wu to make a move. On one hand, he wanted to see Yang Chong's reaction. On the other hand, he wanted to test if Jiao Wu was a heavenly demon. Now, Jiao Wu's attack brought about a trace of aura, and he was almost certain that Jiao Wu was a sky demon. Since Jiao Wu was a sky demon, even if he killed Jiao Wu, there should be no problem. What is Ning Yu doing? Scared silly? He should be. After all, Ning Yu is only an early-stage 3rd-order quasi-emperor, while Jiao Wu is an early-stage 4th-order quasi-emperor. The two of them are a whole level apart. Sigh, the 5th prince is really something. Why is he watching his subordinate 3rd-order quasi-emperor go to his death? Humph. Someone wants to die, how can the 5th prince stop him? Seeing that Ning Yu did not have the slightest intention of stopping him, the surrounding martial artists began to discuss. He should be fine, right? Yang Yuming was slightly worried and asked Ao Xing next to him. What could possibly happen to him? Ao Xing rolled his eyes and said in a low voice, you may not know Ning Yu's true battle strength. I'll tell you this, when Ning Yu was a peak 2nd stage 4th-order quasi-emperor, he could already contend with a 4th-order quasi-emperor. Now that he has advanced to a 3rd-order quasi-emperor, his overall strength should be able to contend with a 4th-order quasi-emperor. So powerful. Yang Yuming was very surprised. How could his strength increase so much just by advancing one level? You'll know when you see. Ao Xing did not explain anything to Yang Yuming. Ning Yu's true strength did not lie in his cultivation. Just by relying on his cultivation, he could at most contend with a mid-fourth order quasi-emperor. However, with the great Tao of devouring and the divine war body, Ning Yu was fearless even if he encountered a peak rank 4 quasi-emperor. That was to say, after advancing to rank 3 quasi-emperor, Ning Yu's overall strength was no weaker than his and Ning Lu's. As for him and Ning Lu, they were both peak rank 3 quasi-emperors. Die. On the side, when Zhao Wu saw that Ning Yu didn't dodge, his face lit up with ecstasy. He gathered all the energy in his body into his fist and punched at Ning Yu's head. You want me to die? At this moment, Ning Yu moved. Shoo. It was fine if he didn't move, but once he did, it was shocking. Ning Yu tore open the void with his hands and went straight in. He disappeared. Not good. The moment Ning Yu disappeared, Zhao Wu realized something was wrong. Because he didn't even see how Ning Yu disappeared. Under such circumstances, it meant that Ning Yu's attainments in space were no weaker than his. Block. In a panic, Zhao Wu hurriedly activated the armor on his body, wanting to block Ning Yu's attack. Crack. Unfortunately, Ning Yu quickly appeared behind him and stabbed out with the Red Fiend sword. The armor Zhao Wu wore was an Emperor-level armor. With his mid-fourth order quasi-Emperor cultivation, he needed some time to fully activate it. Ning Yu took advantage of the gap when he activated the armor to stab his sword into his back and out of his heart. Fart. Bright red blood spurted from his mouth. The mid-fourth order quasi-Emperor Zhao Wu died on the spot. Hiss. Ning Yu killing Zhao Wu with one strike caused the surrounding cultivators to be slightly moved. All of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Killed a fourth order quasi-Emperor with one sword. One had to know that Ning Yu was only an early fourth order quasi-Emperor. To kill a martial artist who was a major realm higher, no one could do it unless they were some absolute geniuses. You. Seeing Zhao Wu die, Yang Chong's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. Among the quasi-emperors who supported him, Zhao Wu's cultivation was the highest and he was the strongest. Others might not know Zhao Wu's true cultivation, but he was very clear about it. A mid-fourth order quasi-emperor, Zhao Wu was not an early fourth order quasi-emperor on the surface, but a genuine mid-fourth order quasi-emperor. Moreover, Zhao Wu still had some other trump cards. Now, Zhao Wu was killed by Ning Yu before he could even use his trump cards. Emperor-level armor, not bad. Ning Yu went straight to Zhao Wu's corpse, reached out, pulled out the armor, and threw it into the Red Fiend sword. After devouring a lot of Emperor spiritual liquid, the Red Fiend sword had also reached Emperor level. However, the Red Fiend sword was more inclined to devour magic treasures. Crack, crack, crack. The Red Fiend sword quickly devoured Zhao Wu's Emperor-level armor. After devouring the Emperor-level armor, the Red Fiend sword's grade increased slightly. Defective product. The Red Fiend sword sent a message to Ning Yu. Zhao Wu's armor was not a genuine Emperor-level armor, but a defective product. Among Emperor-level armors, its defense was the weakest. 2 Emperor-level medicinal pills, hand them over. Ning Yu kicked Zhao Wu to Yang Chong and said indifferently, Fourth Prince, I believe that you are willing to admit defeat and will not play any tricks. I am willing to admit defeat, but you publicly killed Zhao Wu. I think you should give the Divine Wind Empire an explanation. Yang Chong threw the jade bottle in his hand to Ning Yu and said fiercely, Zhao Wu is a general of the Divine Wind Empire. You killed him, so you will not be able to escape today. Not be able to escape? Who's going to capture me? Ning Yu said calmly. Originally, Ning Yu did not want to expose the fact that Zhao Wu was a heavenly demon. However, if Yang Chong provoked him again and again, he would definitely reveal Zhao Wu's identity to the public. At that time, it was still unknown whether Yang Chong would be able to escape successfully. Where are the law enforcers? Yang Chong said coldly, Ning Yu killed Great General Zhao Wu. Why haven't the members of the Law Enforcement Palace come out and capture him? Whoosh. Yang Chong's voice fell. Several martial artists appeared in the surroundings. The cultivation of these martial artists was not particularly high, but they were all rank 3 quasi-emperors. Each of them had a token on their body. The words law enforcement officers were written on the token. The members of the law enforcement officers of the Divine Wind Empire were all experts. It was not difficult for them to challenge those of a higher cultivation level. Although the 4 law enforcement hall cultivators before him were early rank 3 quasi-emperors, they might not necessarily lose to a rank 4 quasi-emperor if they were to fight against one. Ha ha ha. Seeing the 4 law enforcement palace experts appear, Yang Chong threw his head back and laughed maniacally. He said viciously, "Ningyu, you even dared to kill Great General Zhao Wu. I can see that you have already discussed this with Fifth Brother. I have reason to believe that you all have disloyal intentions. Come with us." Among the 4 law enforcement officers, a middle-aged man dressed in white said to Ningyu, "You are suspected of killing General Zhao Wu and need to be investigated." "You really want to investigate me?" Chapter 2544. The middle-aged man in white frowned, feeling that Ningyu was too arrogant. On the phone. He was a martial artist of the Divine Wind Empire's Law Enforcement Hall, an early-stage third-order martial artist, the backbone of the Divine Wind Empire. Ningyu dared to ask him to investigate General Zhao Wu and arrest Yang Chong in front of so many people. Did he eat a bear's heart and a leopard's gall? Ha ha ha. Seeing Ningyu and the middle-aged man in white going against each other, Yang Chong couldn't help but laugh wildly. He might be the 4th prince, but to be honest, he didn't have the guts to go against the law enforcement hall martial artist. Or rather, he didn't dare to do it. After all, the law enforcement hall represented the emperor, the entire Divine Wind Empire, not a single person. Ningyu, you might not know this, but the law enforcement hall represents the emperor. You openly disobeyed the law enforcement hall martial artist. Even if you have 10 lives, you are destined to die today. Yang Chong's lips curled up as he looked at Ningyu and said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, surrender as soon as possible. That way, you might be able to keep your corpse intact." "Is that so?" Ningyu chuckled and ignored Yang Chong. His eyes fell on the middle-aged man in white and said indifferently, "As long as you investigate Zhao Wu, everything will be clear." The middle-aged man didn't say whether or not to investigate Zhao Wu. He stood where he was, and his eyes shone brightly. No one knew what he was doing. No need to investigate. The fight for the position of Crown Prince is about to begin. The Emperor doesn't want anything to go wrong. The middle-aged man waved his right hand, and a gust of wind swept Zhao Wu away. Subsequently, the middle-aged man in white and the remaining 3 law enforcement hall martial artists disappeared together. How is this possible? A long time after the middle-aged man in white disappeared, Yang Chong finally reacted. To be honest, he didn't expect this result. He really couldn't figure it out. Why did the middle-aged man in white want to protect Ningyu? That's right, protect. In his opinion, as a martial artist of the Tribunal Council, the white-robed middle-aged man could easily apprehend Ningyu and execute him on the spot. However, the white-robed middle-aged man did not do that. He casually took Zhao Wu away and did not even say a word. This made Yang Chong a little suspicious. Not only Yang Chong, even Yang Zhaokai and the others were a little confused. Those who did not know would think that the God Monarch was secretly supporting Yang Yuming. The Divine Wind Empire's sovereign emperor should have known long ago. Ningyu stopped underestimating him. In fact, the emperor of the Divine Wind Empire had always been hiding in the void. If it weren't for Ao Xing and Ninglu's help, Ningyu wouldn't have been able to find the emperor's whereabouts. Since the Empyrean Lord was in the void, offending Yang Chong was the limit. Ningyu had no doubt that if he offended Yang Shui again, he would not be able to escape today. Whoosh! Just as he was thinking, suddenly, a figure tore through the void and appeared in front of everyone. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Upon seeing the newcomer, the many cultivators in front of the Crown Prince's hall bowed and greeted him respectfully. The newcomer was none other than the Divine Wind Empire's sovereign emperor. High-grade quasi-emperor. Based on the sovereign emperor's aura, Ningyu judged that he should be a high-grade quasi-emperor. As for whether he was a rank 7, rank 8, or rank 9, Ningyu did not know. After all, at the level of a high-grade quasi-emperor, if they wanted to deliberately hide their aura, ordinary cultivators would not be able to discover them. I'll cut to the chase. I have made a small change to the rules of the fight for the position of Crown Prince. The Sovereign Emperor's gaze swept across the crowd and he said, all the princes vying for the position of Crown Prince will enter the inner hall of the Crown Prince's hall and engage in a chaotic battle. The 3 princes left standing will enter the second round. As for the advisors of the princes, they will engage in a chaotic battle in the outer hall of the Crown Prince's hall. The final 3 advisors will enter the second round. The rules are actually very simple. Be it the princes or advisors, as long as they can enter the top 3, the advisors and the princes can bask in the glory and enter the second round. I will tell you the rules of the second round at that time. Whoosh. The moment the Sovereign Emperor spoke, the Sovereign Emperor tore through space and entered. Not long after he entered, the Sovereign Emperor's voice rang out again. Oh, by the way, only 1 advisor can participate in the battle. The rest will wait outside the Crown Prince's hall. The Sovereign Emperor's words caused the expressions of the princes who were hoping for a fluke to turn somewhat unsightly. These princes were not very strong, they had not even reached quasi-emperor. However, their advisors were very strong. If a few more advisors could enter the second round, they might be able to enter the second round. Now that the Sovereign Emperor had cut off their hopes of entering the second round, some princes did not even enter the Crown Prince's hall and chose to give up. One had to know. The Sovereign Emperor did not say that they could kill them. What if they met a few ruthless characters in the inner hall and got killed? Who could they reason with then? It was better to be safe than sorry. Ningyu, just you wait and see. Yang Qiong glared at Ningyu and entered the inner hall of the Crown Prince's hall without looking back. At this moment, Yang Qiong was extremely furious. His advisor, Zhao Wu, had already been killed, leaving only Wang He, who was a peak 3rd rank quasi-emperor. It would be harder than ascending to heaven for Wang He to enter the top 3. Therefore, he could only stand out among the princes. Otherwise, he would not even be able to enter the second round. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yang Qiong was the first to enter the Crown Prince's hall. The other princes leaped up and entered the hall one after another. After all the princes entered the hall, the remaining advisors quickly moved toward the Crown Prince's hall. Ningyu roughly scanned them. He discovered that these advisors were very powerful. Qin He, the advisor of the 18th Prince Yang Zhaokai, looked like a mid-4th rank quasi-emperor, but was actually a peak 4th rank quasi-emperor. Zhu Shu, the advisor of the 13th Prince Yang Qinghao, was a late 4th rank quasi-emperor. Tang Hong, the advisor of the 9th Prince Yang Shui, was a late 4th rank quasi-emperor. Wang He, the advisor of the 4th Prince Yang Qiong, was a peak 3rd rank quasi-emperor. Among the remaining advisors, there was an old man in grey who attracted Ningyu's attention. As he expected, this grey-robed old man's cultivation should be around half-step 5th rank quasi-emperor, slightly stronger than Qin He. Ningyu became cautious. In a one-on-one fight, the grey-robed old man might not be able to gain the upper hand. However, he was afraid that the grey-robed old man would join forces with the others to deal with him. Ningyu was not arrogant enough to think that he could fight against many people at once. Furthermore, they were all rank 4th rank quasi-emperors. Whoosh. He did not think too much about it. Ningyu leaped up and entered the outer hall of the Crown Prince's hall. The fight in the outer hall looked rather ferocious, but in reality, no one took the initiative to attack. After everyone entered the outer hall, they stood where they were and closed their eyes to rest. Everyone knew that, as long as they made the first move, they would definitely be surrounded by the others. Rather than that, they might as well play dead and watch the others fight. Perhaps both sides would end up heavily injured, and they would be able to advance easily without even needing to make a move. This book came from Chapter 2545. Drip, drip. Time passed by slowly. After a full 10 minutes, a rank 4 quasi-emperor opened his eyes and said indifferently, "Everyone, don't just stand here. In my opinion, everyone below rank 4 quasi-emperor should leave, lest the innocent get hurt." Whoosh. The moment the rank 4 quasi-emperor spoke, the low-rank quasi-emperors who wanted to fish in troubled waters all had unsightly expressions. No matter how unwilling they were, they could only grimace. A rank 4 quasi-emperor's words were crude, but they were not. If these low-rank quasi-emperors stayed behind, they would not even be able to withstand the shockwaves of a mid-rank quasi-emperor fight. What do you mean by this? The rank 4 quasi-emperor who spoke was the 9th prince's aide, Tang Hong. He looked at the 4 rank 3 quasi-emperors and frowned slightly. I already said that rank 3 quasi-emperors might be killed if they stay behind. The 4 rank 3 quasi-emperors remained. Ningyu did not count. After all, Tang Hong knew Ningyu's strength. He subconsciously treated Ningyu as a rank 4 quasi-emperor. Of the 4 rank 3 quasi-emperors, one was Wang He, one was an old woman with a walking stick, one was a middle-aged man wearing a conical bamboo hat, and the last was a crippled old man. Boom. Boom. The old woman and the conical bamboo hat man casually glanced at Tang Hong before unleashing their auras and soaring into the sky. Late rank 4 quasi-emperors. Tang Hong's expression changed slightly. He had misjudged them. Both the old woman and the conical bamboo hat man were late rank 4 quasi-emperors, the same as him. You pass. You can stay. Tang Hong shifted his gaze to the crippled old man and asked, "What about you? What's your cultivation?" The crippled old man was still resting with his eyes closed and did not answer Tang Hong's question. Humph. Tang Hong's expression changed. There were indeed not many cultivators who dared to openly oppose him here. Go. After a cold snort, Tang Hong decided to test the crippled old man's strength. If the crippled old man was strong, he could consider keeping him. If he was weak, then he could not blame him. He flicked his wrist. A cold light instantly shot out, heading straight for the crippled old man. Bang! The lame old man did not look at the cold light. However, when the cold light was 1 meter away from his body, it automatically stopped. Half-step rank 5 quasi-emperor. Tang Hong's expression turned extremely ugly. The lame old man was a half-step rank 5 quasi-emperor. He was only a step away from becoming a rank 5 quasi-emperor. This level of strength was not something he could contend with. We must join forces to drive him out first. Tang Hong's eyes turned as he thought of a countermeasure. At this time, there were not many warriors left in the outer hall. Including him, there were only 9 martial artists. The grey-robed old man and the lame old man were both half-step rank 5 quasi-emperors. Qin He concealed his cultivation to be at the peak of the 4th rank. Ju Shu, the man in the conical bamboo hat, and the old woman with the walking stick were all late-stage 4th rank quasi-emperors. Ning Yu was an early-stage 3rd order quasi-emperor, Wang He was a peak 3rd order quasi-emperor, and he himself was a late-stage 4th order quasi-emperor. Among the 9 martial artists, Wang He would definitely be eliminated. As long as the grey-robed old man and the lame old man did not fight among themselves, they would also obtain 2 spots. Based on this, wouldn't it be very difficult for him to obtain the last spot? Ningyu, why don't we join forces and drive these 2 half-step rank 5 quasi-emperors out first? Tang Hong gritted his teeth and began to send a soul transmission to Ningyu. Not only that. While Tang Hong was contacting Ningyu, he was also contacting Qin He, Ju Shu, the man in the conical bamboo hat, and the old woman with the walking stick. Only by joining forces with many people would they be absolutely safe. Otherwise, there was a high chance that he would be eliminated. I don't care. Ningyu shrugged his shoulders, indicating that it did not matter whether he participated or not. From Ningyu's point of view, unless Tang Hong and the rest had trump cards, even if they joined forces, they would not be a match for 2 half-step rank 5 quasi-emperors. The grey-robed old man and the lame old man were also partly responsible for Ningyu not agreeing to Tang Hong's request immediately. Just now, while Tang Hong was contacting Ningyu, the grey-robed old man and the lame old man were also contacting Ningyu. In other words, the grey-robed old man also contacted Qin He and the rest. In short, the 9 of them each had their own ulterior motives. None of them were willing to be the first to make a move. Ningyu, I want to challenge you. This situation continued for a period of time. In the end, It was broken by Wang He. Wang He took a step forward and pointed a finger at Ningyu, saying fiercely, "You killed General Jiao Wu, I want to have a deathmatch with you." A deathmatch? Ningyu was slightly surprised. Was Wang his brain rusty? He was just a peak rank 3 quasi-emperor, how dare he challenge him? Furthermore, it was a deathmatch. Even someone as strong as Jiao Wu was easily killed by him, let alone Wang He. Unless Wang his brain rusted or he lost his mind. Something's not right. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and started to be secretly vigilant in his heart. Wang He dared to have a deathmatch with him. It was very likely that it was arranged by the grey-robed old man and the lame old man. Otherwise, with Wang his cultivation and strength alone, he would not dare to take the initiative to challenge him. The more he thought about it, the more Ningyu felt that it was possible. However, Ningyu did not expose it easily. He looked at Wang He coldly and said in a deep voice, "Can any Tom, Dick, or Harry challenge me? If you want to challenge me, sure. Take out 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills first. If you don't have medicinal pills, you'd better get lost as soon as possible. Here are the medicinal pills." Wang He's reaction was out of Ningyu's expectations. Wang He casually threw a jade bottle to Ningyu and said, "There are 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills inside. Can you spar with me now?" Pa. Ningyu received the medicinal pills, his expression a little dumbfounded. When did Wang He become so rich and overbearing? Those were 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills. Even young Chong could not take them out easily. Who exactly was Wang He? Why did he take out 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills without even furrowing his brows? Is it worth it to do this? On the other side, the grey-robed old man frowned slightly and lowered his voice to transmit his voice to the lame old man. If Wang He is killed by Ningyu, our emperor-grade medicinal pills will be wasted. Just 1 emperor-grade medicinal pill. Don't tell me you can't afford it. The lame old man said indifferently, expending an emperor-grade medicinal pill to test Ningyu's true strength is completely worth it. All right, the grey-robed old man nodded and said. Ningyu's guess was right. The reason why Wang He attacked him was entirely because he was bewitched by the lame old man and the grey-robed old man. In order to test Ningyu's true combat strength, the lame old man and the grey-robed old man even lent Wang He a scroll. That scroll was not a one-time use item but a multi-use item. After activating the scroll, it could easily contend against a peak rank 4 quasi-emperor. The scroll's energy was exhausted. As long as a large amount of energy was injected, the scroll could be used a second time. Using a total of 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills and a scroll, if they could test Ningyu's true strength, it was completely worth it. This book came from Chapter 2546. Take My Punch, Overlord Fis. When Wang He saw Ningyu accept the emperor-grade medicinal pill, he immediately flashed out explosively. His right hand clenched into a fist, and his fist brought along a violent gale of energy as it smashed fiercely towards Ningyu's head. Phone. Bang. In the nick of time, Ningyu casually waved his right hand. The 2 fists collided. Ningyu stood in place without moving, while Wang He was pushed back several feet, only stopping when his body hit the ground. You overestimate yourself. After forcing Wang He back with a punch, Ningyu said indifferently, seeing that it's not easy for you to cultivate, if you retreat now, I can spare your life. Don't even think about it. Wang He raised his head and shouted, then took out a scroll from his bosom and threw it at Ningyu. Explode. Following Wang He's low shout, Lin Fan's expression changed. The scroll suddenly activated, and the terrifying energy inside attacked Ningyu from all directions. Let's see how you can escape this time. The corner of Wang He's mouth curled up, as if he could see Ningyu's miserable state when he was killed, and he could not help but laugh. What? However, Wang He's laughter came to an abrupt halt halfway through. Because he realized. Ningyu was not killed by the energy inside the scroll, but stood in place unscathed. On the other hand, most of the energy was dispersed by Ningyu, and the rest dissipated between heaven and earth. Die. Ningyu looked at the scroll in Wang He's hand, and his heart was filled with joy, but on the surface, he was very angry. The scroll was a good thing. Ningyu dared to conclude that the scroll definitely did not belong to Wang He. However, who cared who it belonged to, since he was fighting with Wang He, then Wang He's things naturally belonged to him. The premise was that he could kill Wang He. Kai Kai. The red demon sword in his hand waved rapidly, and in an instant, several sword beams shot out, attacking Wang He. There were so many sword lights. Even an ordinary late-stage 4th-rank quasi-emperor would not be able to withstand it, much less a peak 3rd-rank quasi-emperor like Wang He. Save. Poochie. Wang He raised his head and screamed. Just as he was about to turn around and call for help, he was killed by Ningyu's red demon sword. Kill Wang He. Ningyu held the red demon sword in his left hand and reached for the scroll with his right. The scroll doesn't belong to you. When the grey-robed elder saw that Ningyu wanted to take the scroll away, he immediately shouted and said coldly, "Leave the scroll." Ningyu would not stop. He casually slashed out several sword lights, attacking the grey-robed old man. As for himself, he went to fight for the scrolls. Attack. Ningyu had taken the initiative to provoke the grey-robed elder, and Tang Hong had mistakenly thought that he was on the same side as him. Thus, he hurriedly attacked the grey-robed elder. Let's go too. As for the rest, they infused Qin He, Ju Shu, and the others into the battlefield without hesitation. You're all courting death. The grey-robed elder was enraged. He was a half-step rank 5 quasi-emperor. Apart from the lame elder, he was the strongest person present. Now that he was surrounded by so many people, he was enraged to the extreme. Kill them all. The grey-robed elder transmitted his voice to the lame elder. Leave no one alive. Sorry, I'll remain neutral. The lame elder's lips curled up, and he said indifferently, "You guys fight your own battles. I won't interfere." The lame elder was the most shrewd. He would not ally with the grey-robed elder. He was very clear in his thoughts. As long as he did not make a move, whether the grey-robed elder or Ningyu won, they would suffer heavy injuries in the end. Under such a situation, he would be the fisherman. When the sandpiper and the clam fought, the fisherman would benefit. Damn it! The grey-robed elder was so angry that his nose was crooked. However, he was helpless at this time and could only brace himself and fight with Ningyu and the others. Rumble. The battle erupted in an instant. Although the grey-robed elder was a half-step rank 5 quasi-emperor, Ningyu and Qin He were not pushovers. Each of them had a trump card. If they were not wary of each other, the grey-robed elder would not have lasted even a minute. You guys are forcing my hand. The grey-robed elder took a deep breath and forced everyone back with one move. Then, he took out a medicinal pill from his bosom. Crack. The medicinal pill melted in the grey-robed elder's mouth and entered his body. Boom. Immediately, a terrifying aura emanated from the grey-robed elder's body. Rank 5 quasi-emperor. At this time, the grey-robed elder's cultivation was no longer a half-step rank 5 quasi-emperor, but a genuine rank 5 quasi-emperor. After his cultivation had risen to rank 5 quasi-emperor, the grey-robed elder's strength had more than doubled. Poochie. He punched out and directly sent the bamboo hat man flying. The bamboo hat man vomited blood, and his aura weakened. Bang! 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 Next. The grey-robed elder punched out 3 more times. Tang Hong, the old woman with the walking stick, and Ju Shu were sent flying out of the outer hall of the Crown Prince's palace. The fact that the few of them were sent flying clearly meant that they were going to be eliminated. Enough. The grey-robed elder shouted coldly. There are still 5 of us left. In my opinion, we should not continue fighting among ourselves. We should think about how to eliminate the final 3 victors. The grey-robed elder did not want to fight to the death with Ningyu and Qin He. He knew from the start that among all the cultivators that entered the outer hall, Ningyu and Qin He were the ones that he feared the most. Of course, there was also the half-step rank 5 quasi-emperor crippled old man. Now that there were only 4 cultivators left, the grey-robed elder naturally did not want to be the fisherman who benefited from their fight. I don't care. Ningyu shrugged and retreated to the back. He had already snatched the scroll and was continuously injecting energy into it. Although the scroll could only injure a peak rank 4 quasi-emperor when it was fully unleashed, It might be able to injure the grey-robed elder and the crippled old man if it was used properly. I don't care either. Qin he did not fight for anything. To him, it was fine as long as he could get a spot. That's good. I want to challenge you. The grey-robed elder took a deep breath. He turned to look at the crippled old man and said fiercely, let's not beat around the bush. Whoever wins stays, and whoever loses scram. You want to challenge me? The crippled old man was somewhat surprised. Not only the crippled old man, but even Ningyu and Qin he were somewhat surprised. They had thought that the eliminated cultivators would be among them. After all, their cultivation had not reached rank 5 quasi-emperor, and they were not even half-step rank 5 quasi-emperors. Who would have thought? The grey-robed elder actually wanted to challenge the crippled old man. This was a little unexpected. Could they be up to some tricks again? Ningyu frowned slightly, feeling very puzzled. At this moment, he must have thought that the grey-robed elder wanted to scheme against him. There was no reason for the grey-robed elder to want to spar with the crippled old man. Old fox. Qin he secretly became cautious. Qin his thoughts were similar to Ningyu's. He also felt that there was a trap. There was definitely something fishy going on. At this moment, he had to be even more careful. Are you sure you want to challenge me? The crippled old man's expression turned somewhat grave. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. I think you should understand this principle. Why don't we join forces and chase them all out? This book came from Chapter 2547. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Haha, I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Since that's the case, don't blame me. The corners of the grey-robed old man's mouth curled up as he smiled faintly. Then, he rose from the ground and charged at the lame old man at a terrifying speed. Swoosh. The grey-robed old man's speed was extremely fast. A second ago, he was still at his original spot. The next second, he appeared in front of the lame old man. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched at the lame old man's head with a violent energy gale. The grey-robed old man's punch was extremely powerful. If the lame old man was unlucky enough to be hit, he would be crippled even if he didn't die. Damn it! In a moment of desperation, the lame old man cursed and hurriedly dodged to the side. Crack! The grey-robed old man's fist did not hit the lame old man. Instead, it hit a stone pillar behind the lame old man. The stone pillar, which was as thick as a person's waist, broke into two on the spot. Do you really want to fight me to the death? The lame old man looked back at the broken stone pillar coldly and said fiercely, don't think that I'm afraid of you. If we really fight to the death, it's still unknown who will win, so what if I fight to the death? The grey-robed old man said in a deep voice without the slightest fear. Humph. The lame old man snorted coldly and took out a medicinal pill from his bosom. Crack. The medicinal pill melted in his mouth and entered the lame old man's abdomen. Rumble. In an instant, an aura no weaker than the grey-robed old man's emanated from the lame old man and soared into the sky. Rank 5 quasi-emperor. Sensing the aura emanating from the lame old man, Ningyu and Qin his expressions turned grave. Fortunately, they did not exchange blows with the lame old man. Otherwise, they might really fail miserably. Given Ningyu's current strength, his chances of victory against a rank 5 quasi-emperor were slim. As for Qin although he had a certain chance of withstanding the attack of a rank 5 quasi-emperor, if they really fought to the death, he would most likely lose. Should we team up later? After thinking for a while, Qin started to send a soul message to Ningyu. He wanted to form a united front with Ningyu. In the current situation, Qin didn't dare to say that he could firmly seize the top 3 positions. If the grey-robed old man and the lame old man stopped fighting, then he or Ningyu would be the one to be kicked out. Being on the same side as Ningyu now was better than being betrayed later. Sure. Ningyu casually glanced at the two people fighting and nodded. Everyone was worried that something might happen. Before any unforeseen events occurred, they had to minimize the danger as much as possible. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu and Qin joined hands, the battle on the other side reached its climax. The facts proved that, The grey-robed old man really did have some skills. Both he and the lame old man were rank 5 quasi-emperors, but he was suppressing the lame old man. If the situation continued like this, it wouldn't be long before the lame old man was defeated. Once the crippled old man was defeated, the 3 spots for the outer hall would be decided. Fut! The grey-robed old man seized the opportunity. A punch landed on the lame old man's chest, sending him flying backward. Swish! He succeeded in one blow. The grey-robed old man didn't follow up with another attack. Instead, he floated in the air and looked at the lame old man coldly. Forget it. Heaven is merciful. I'll spare your life today. You win. The lame old man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "See you in the second round." Swish. As soon as he spoke, the lame old man suddenly turned around and charged at Ningyu and Qin He. A ball of terrifying energy condensed on his right hand. The lame old man suddenly threw it out between Ningyu and Qin He. An indiscriminate attack. The lame old man was more ruthless. He wanted to eliminate both Ningyu and Qin He. If Ningyu and Qin He were eliminated, and the 18th prince and the 5th prince failed miserably, the final result would be the 18th prince and the 5th prince being eliminated at the same time. You're courting death. Ningyu and Qin He attacked without any hesitation. To be honest, the lame old man was completely irrational to attack Ningyu and Qin He at the same time. If he attacked Ningyu or Qin He alone, the other one would probably stand at the same place and watch the show, not getting involved. However, now that the lame old man wanted to eliminate 2 of them at once, Ningyu and Qin He would definitely teach him a lesson. Rumble. Ningyu and Qin He didn't hold back. Both of them used their full strength. At his peak, the lame old man should have the upper hand against Ningyu and Qin He with his rank 5 quasi-emperor cultivation. However, in his weakened state, the lame old man's overall strength had decreased by at least half. How could he be a match for Ningyu and Qin He? Poochie. Ningyu brandished the red demon sword and stabbed the lame old man's chest. Qin He was even more exaggerated. His fist brought a violent gust of wind and chopped off half of the lame old man's head. You're courting death. The lame old man flew into a rage. He roared at Qin He and Ningyu, "No one in the world can save you." As he spoke, the lame old man took out another elixir from his bosom. Compared to the ones he had taken out before, this pill's medicinal effects were even more violent. Don't let him swallow it. Qin He's expression changed drastically. He knew the name of the elixir the lame old man took out. Violent Dragon Elixir. The so-called Violent Dragon Elixir could give one the power of a violent dragon and the vigorous immortal chi of a violent dragon. The Violent Dragon Elixir was an Emperor-level elixir, and it was not an early-stage Emperor-level elixir, but a peak early-stage Emperor-level elixir. Once the lame old man swallowed the Violent Dragon Elixir, even if Ningyu and Qin He joined forces, they would not be able to gain the upper hand. Kill. Ningyu naturally knew the severity of the problem. He bellowed, and the red demon sword in his hand suddenly fell. In an instant, a sword ray as thick as a person's waist shot out towards the lame old man. Apricot Blossom Fist. Qin He clenched his right fist and punched through the air. Countless fistlights and Ningyu's sword light attacked the lame old man. Poochie. Just as the lame old man was about to swallow the Violent Dragon Elixir, Ningyu's sword light and Qin He's fist light struck the lame old man's heart at the same time. This attack. The lame old man's heart was pierced on the spot. I can't accept this. The lame old man's pupils constricted, and he lowered his head to look at the hole in his heart. He pointed at Ningyu and Qin He, wanting to say something ruthless, but before he could finish, his body fell backward. Thump. His body hit the ground with a dull thud. At this moment, the lame old man, who was a rank 5 quasi-emperor, was killed by Ningyu and Qin He. I want the Violent Dragon Elixir, and you can have the other things on the lame old man. Without waiting for Ningyu to speak, Qin He said hurriedly. The Violent Dragon Elixir was a life-saving elixir. With the Violent Dragon Elixir, even if Qin He encountered a true rank 5 quasi-emperor in the future, he could easily contend. If used properly, he might even be able to kill a rank 5 quasi-emperor. This book came from Chapter 2548. All right. Although Ning Yu was unwilling, he could only choose to compromise. After all, there were only 3 martial artists left in the outer hall of the Crown Prince Palace. If Qin He were to fight with him now, he might not be able to gain the upper hand, and might even fail miserably. Of course. These were all Qin his own imagination. He thought that Ning Yu was afraid, so he gave him the Violent Dragon Elixir, a peak early Emperor-level elixir. Little did he know. After he and the Violent Dragon Elixir were in his hands, Ning Yu slowly moved to the front of the crippled old man. Squatting down, Ning Yu began to search the body of the crippled old man. A moment later, Ning Yu got up. However, in Ning Yu's hands, there was a jade bottle and a spatial ring. Without a doubt, the jade bottle and spatial ring belonged to the crippled old man. If Qin He knew what was in the jade bottle and spatial ring, he would probably vomit blood. There were a total of 5 Emperor-level elixirs in the jade bottle. As for the spatial ring, it was even more exaggerated. There were countless 2 realm stones, enlightenment stones, Dao fruits, and even 100 drops of inferior Emperor spirit liquid, as well as a few drops of quasi-Emperor blood essence. Ning Yu could judge. These quasi-Emperor blood essence should be high-level quasi-Emperor blood essence. At this stage, for Ning Yu, these things were more useful than a Violent Dragon Elixir. After all, it took some time to swallow the Violent Dragon Elixir. Even a second was enough to be fatal. Congratulations, you have advanced. Ning Yu had just received the jade bottle and spatial ring when the Emperor Lord's voice rang in their ears. Creak. Then, the door of the outer hall was pushed open. Ning Yu, Qin He, and the grey-robed old man, they walked out a few steps apart. Among them, Ning Yu represented the 5th prince, Yang Yuming. Qin He represented the 18th prince, Yang Zhaokai. The grey-robed old man represented the 25th prince, Yang Qian. Creak. Just as Ning Yu and the others left the outer hall, the tightly shut door to the inner hall slowly opened. Similarly, 3 cultivators walked out side by side. In the middle was the 18th prince Yang Zhaokai, on the left was the 25th prince Yang Qian, and on the right was the 5th prince Yang Yuming. Unanimous. It was surprisingly consistent. The victorious warriors of the inner and outer halls belonged to the same faction. Yang Yuming is indeed hiding something. Ning Yu frowned slightly, feeling a little surprised. To be honest, he was already prepared for Yang Yuming's defeat. Unexpectedly, Yang Yuming was so powerful that he could actually obtain a seat among so many princes. The 25th prince is hiding his strength well. Ning Yu then looked at Yang Qian. Before, no one had expected Yang Qian to win. Even the few rank 6 quasi-emperors hidden in the void did not expect Yang Qian to stand out. Voila! When Yang Yuming and the others walked out of the inner hall, the god monarch's words echoed in everyone's ears once more. Congratulations on winning the first stage. Next, the second stage of the test will be even more brutal. The god monarch's gaze was sharp as he stared at Yang Yuming and said in a deep voice, Yang Yuming, go and challenge Yang Zhaokai. If you win, you will enter the next round. If you lose, you will be directly eliminated. Boom. The god monarch's words caused a huge uproar in the surroundings. Not only Yang Yuming, even Ning Yu and Qin He were somewhat surprised. Let Yang Yuming challenge Yang Zhaokai? If that was the case, didn't it mean that Yang Qian did not need to fight and could easily enter the next round? Russell. Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai knew that the god monarch always meant what he said. The 2 of them took a step forward at the same time, cupped their hands at each other, and then began the battle. Rumble. Originally, Yang Yuming was just a late-stage rank 1 quasi-emperor. It was unknown what he experienced in the inner hall, but now his cultivation had reached early-stage rank 2 quasi-emperor. As for Yang Zhaokai, he was even more terrifying. His cultivation was late-stage rank 2 quasi-emperor. The battle between Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai was very exciting. All kinds of magic arts flew everywhere. You punched me, I punched you. The scene was very lively. What the hell is the god monarch doing? Qin His expression did not change, but he secretly became cautious in his heart. Could it be that the god monarch discovered Yang Zhaokai's secret? Actually, Qin he faintly guessed some things. Yang Zhaokai colluded with a heavenly demon. In fact, Yang Zhaokai himself was a heavenly demon. Of course, this was just Qin his guess. Even if he knew Yang Zhaokai's true identity, he would not make it public either. After all, Yang Zhaokai could provide him with large amounts of resources for him to cultivate, to help him break through to rank 5 Quasi-Emperor, rank 6 Quasi-Emperor, and even rank 7 Quasi-Emperor. Ningyu, what good things did you get inside? In midair, Yang Yuming was still fighting with Yang Zhaokai when Ning Lu and Ao Xing quietly arrived in front of Ningyu. The one who spoke was Ning Lu. He used his nose to sniff at Ningyu's body, and then said, "You have a Quasi-Emperor blood essence, and it's even a high-level Quasi-Emperor blood essence. Quickly give me a few drops, I want to break through to rank 4 Quasi-Emperor." "I want a few drops too," Ao Xing echoed. Ningyu rolled his eyes. The Quasi-Emperor blood essence was in the spatial ring, and he put it in the red fiend sword. Did Ning Lu have a dog's nose? How did he find out? However, thinking about it, Ningyu still said, "There are a total of 6 drops of high-level Quasi-Emperor blood essence. I'll keep 1, the Dark Emperor has 1, the Red Fiend has 1, and the 2 of you, 1 each. I'll leave the rest for the others." Ningyu's parents, Water Moon Fairy, and the others were all at the 5th prince's residence. A drop of high-level Quasi-Emperor blood essence should be able to help them break through to the Immortal King Realm, or even the peak of the Immortal King Realm. All right. Even though Ning Lu was unwilling, he could only nod. For him, swallowing a drop of Quasi-Emperor blood essence would give him an 80% chance of breaking through to rank 4 Quasi-Emperor. As for Ao Xing, if he used a drop of Quasi-Emperor blood essence, coupled with his own situation, he would have a 90% chance of breaking through to rank 4 Quasi-Emperor. Rumble. On the other side, Ningyu had just finished distributing the Quasi-Emperor blood essence. On the other side, the battle had reached its climax. Yang Zhaokai swallowed an Emperor-level medicinal pill, and his cultivation directly rose to the peak of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor realm. Yang Yuming did not want to lag behind. He drank a mouthful of golden liquid, and his cultivation also rose to the peak of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor realm. Trump card. This was their absolute trump card. I can't compare to them. Yang Qian shook his head slightly when he saw the intense battle between Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai. He also had a trump card. However, his trump card was far from Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai's. Even if he used his trump card, his cultivation could only rise to the peak of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor realm. For a genius, even a small difference in cultivation level was enough to be fatal. In fact, in the inner hall of the Crown Prince's palace, the 3 of them had first worked together to defeat the others, and then they had sparred with each other. At that time, he had lost to Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai by a single move. "Don't panic, 25th Prince." As if reading Yang Qian's mind, the grey-robed elder quietly came to his side and asked in a low voice, "What is this?" As he spoke, the grey-robed elder took out a medicinal pill and quietly stuffed it into Yang Qian's hand. This book came from Chapter 2549. This is, as soon as he took the pill, Yang Qian's expression changed. The pill that the elder gave him was of an extremely high grade. Although it was not a mid-emperor pill, in a sense, its effects were comparable to a mid-emperor pill. How precious was a mid-emperor pill? It could be said that even a high-level quasi-emperor would covet it. "Don't make a fuss." The elder looked around and said in a low voice, "While everyone else is watching the battle between Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai, quickly consume it and try to raise your cultivation to rank 3 quasi-emperor." Yang Qian did not speak, but hid the pill in his sleeve, activated a technique and began to refine it carefully. If it was under normal circumstances. If Yang Qian were to refine this pill, it would definitely be discovered by others. But now, everyone's attention was on Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai. Who would notice Yang Qian? Of course. Among so many people, there would definitely be a weirdo. Ningyu. That's right, this weirdo was Ningyu. At first, Ningyu's attention was on Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai, but as the battle progressed, he vaguely realized that Yang Qian was unusual. Logically speaking, as one of the 3 victorious princes, Yang Qian would definitely spar with the winner of Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai. Under such circumstances, he did not watch the battle, but instead closed his eyes to rest. To be honest, this was not normal. I see. Ningyu looked at it for a while and found some clues. After all, the pill that Yang Qian was consuming was a peak early emperor pill, comparable to the violent dragon pill. Even with the elder's help to seal the void, this level of pill still emitted some medicinal power. Ningyu was able to determine something from the medicinal efficacy that was emitted. However, Ningyu was not stupid enough to expose Yang Qian. He did not know if he would be able to meet Yang Qian next. Once Yang Yuming was defeated, Yang Yuming would be out of the fight for the position of Crown Prince. Only if Yang Yuming defeated Yang Zhaokai would he be able to fight Yang Qian head-on. Poof! In midair, Yang Zhaokai took advantage of Yang Yuming's mistake and punched him in the chest. The enormous force directly sent Yang Yuming flying. His body heavily smashed onto the ground and he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Surrender. Yang Zhaokai did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he floated in the air with his arms crossed in front of his chest. Your strength is far from mine. Even if you forcefully raise your cultivation to the peak of the second order, you are still no match for me. Really? Yang Yuming wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looked at Yang Zhaokai and said, I'm afraid it's still too early to say these things. Yang Zhaokai raised his eyebrows and said, could it be that you still have other trump cards? Both sides had already fought to this extent. To be honest. Even if Yang Yuming had a trump card, Yang Zhaokai was not afraid of anything. There was no other reason. Yang Zhaokai also had a trump card. Of course. Yang Yuming growled and immediately took out a talisman from his bosom. A high-grade quasi-emperor talisman. The talisman that Yang Yuming took out was a high-grade quasi-emperor talisman. The power of this talisman was extremely powerful. In the case of a sneak attack, even a rank 5 quasi-emperor would be killed. However, Yang Zhaokai would not foolishly watch Yang Yuming activate the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman. At their level, victory or defeat was decided in an instant. As long as Yang Yuming dared to use the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman, Yang Zhaokai had absolute confidence in defeating him. Open. Yang Yuming did not seem to play his cards according to common sense. He growled and threw out the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman in his hand. What the F***CK? For real? Yang Zhaokai was a little confused. He did not expect that Yang Yuming would directly use the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman. One had to know that the activation time of a high-grade quasi-emperor talisman required 1 second. One should not underestimate this second. Yang Zhaokai had absolute confidence in defeating Yang Yuming in this second. Since you're seeking death, then don't blame me. Yang Zhaokai's eyes revealed a decisive look. Gritting his teeth, he took out another medicinal pill and threw it into his mouth. Boom! The medicinal pill entered his stomach. Yang Zhaokai's aura directly soared from peak rank 2 quasi-emperor to rank 3 quasi-emperor. Break. After advancing to rank 3 quasi-emperor, Yang Zhaokai clenched his right hand into a fist and punched at the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman that Yang Yuming threw out. Crack. A crisp sound rang out. The high-grade quasi-emperor talisman that Yang Yuming took out shattered on the spot. Not good. However, the instant the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman shattered, Yang Yuming tore the void and arrived beside Yang Zhaokai. Furthermore, Yang Yuming gathered all the energy in his body into his fist and ruthlessly punched at Yang Zhaokai's chest. Bang! Without a doubt. Yang Zhaokai's attention was practically all on the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman. He only discovered it when Yang Yuming's fist arrived in front of him. But at this time, Yang Zhaokai discovered that it was clearly a little too late. Yang Yuming's fist that contained terrifying energy could not be avoided and bombarded Yang Zhaokai's chest. The huge force directly sent Yang Zhaokai flying backward. Poochie. Fresh blood spurted out of his mouth. The current Yang Zhaokai was much more miserable than Yang Yuming earlier. You lost. Yang Yuming similarly floated in midair after his attack succeeded. He looked at Yang Zhaokai coldly and said, the position of Crown Prince is completely fated with you. I didn't lose, I still have it. Yang Zhaokai stood up with difficulty, wanting to say something, but before his voice faded, he vomited another mouthful of blood. Buzz. In the void. The emperor appeared at the right time. He swept a glance over Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai, saying indifferently, Yang Zhaokai is eliminated. In the next round, Yang Yuming and Ning Yu will join forces to deal with Yang Qian and Chen Feng. The battle begins immediately. Whoosh. The emperor's words caused the surrounding martial artists to be somewhat moved. What did the emperor mean? Yang Zhaokai was eliminated. Everyone could understand. After all, he lost to Yang Yuming. However, Yang Yuming had just experienced a great battle. Letting him fight with Yang Qian at this time was extremely disadvantageous to him. Moreover, there was another point. Everyone could tell that the grey-robed old man called Chen Feng had a cultivation of rank 5 quasi-emperor. Ning Yu's cultivation was merely an early-stage rank 3 quasi-emperor. Would an early-stage rank 3 quasi-emperor have a chance of winning against a rank 5 quasi-emperor? The answer was clearly no. Please. The emperor's decision benefited Yang Qian the most. He took a step forward and made an inviting gesture, saying, "Fifth brother, let's split it up. You and I will exchange pointers, Chen Feng and Ning Yu will exchange pointers, and only the winner will exchange pointers. How about it?" Yang Qian's idea was very simple. Chen Feng's victory over Ning Yu was a sure thing. As long as he defeated Yang Yuming, the final position of Crown Prince would be his. However, he was also afraid of failing miserably. Chapter 2550. In that case, it would be impolite of me to refuse. Yang Yuming glanced at Ning Yu, then leaped up and charged at Yang Qian. Rumble. The battle between the two erupted in an instant. Yang Qian displayed his rank 3 quasi-emperor cultivation from the get-go, and was practically suppressing Yang Yuming. On the other hand, Yang Yuming. He had just finished fighting with Yang Zhaokai and had yet to recover to his peak state, and was nearly defeated several times. On the other side, Ning Yu and Chen Feng did not start fighting. The two of them stood where they were, looking at each other, neither knowing what the other was thinking. Just a little more. Ning Yu did not make a move because he was refining the blood essence of a high-level quasi-emperor. His cultivation was only at rank 3 quasi-emperor, and if he really fought with Chen Feng, who was a rank 5 quasi-emperor, his chances of winning were very low. Therefore, he had been refining the blood essence from the beginning, striving to break through to rank 3 quasi-emperor as soon as possible. As long as he could break through to rank 3 quasi-emperor, even if he faced Chen Feng, who had just become a rank 5 quasi-emperor, he had a chance of winning. After all, Chen Feng had just advanced to rank 5 quasi-emperor, and had not completely stabilized. As for Chen Feng, his thoughts were actually similar to Ning Yu's. When Ning Yu and Qin he joined forces to kill the lame old man in the outer hall of the Crown Prince's palace, he was very shocked. Now that he had not recovered to his peak state, he naturally did not dare to take the initiative to attack. To ensure that nothing went wrong, he was refining medicinal pills to recover, striving to recover to peak state before fighting with Ning Yu. The scene suddenly became a little strange. Yes, it was strange. Yang Yuming and Yang Qian were fighting. Their two advisors stood where they were, with no intention of making a move. This is really infuriating. The most depressed was Yang Zhaokai. He was simply about to explode from anger. Originally, he should have been the one fighting with Yang Qian. After all, his strength was stronger than Yang Yuming's. However, Yang Yuming dared to fight and was willing to give up some things. Yang Yuming gave up a high-level quasi-emperor talisman, otherwise, he would not have been able to defeat him. There should still be a chance. Although Qin his face was gloomy, it seemed to be a lot better than Yang Zhaokai's. He pursed his lips at the Sovereign Emperor in midair and said, "The Sovereign Emperor must have his reasons for arranging for you to fight Yang Yuming first. If nothing goes wrong, as long as you take the initiative to ask, you'll have at least one additional chance to challenge him." Heh! Hearing Qin his analysis, Yang Zhaokai frowned slightly. In fact, what Qin he said was not without reason. After all, he had just finished sparring with Yang Yuming, and the Celestial Emperor had arranged for Yang Yuming to spar with Yang Qian. This arrangement was clearly to prevent Yang Yuming from seizing the position of Crown Prince. Got it. Suddenly, Yang Zhaokai seemed to have thought of something. He slapped his head and a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. The supporter behind Yang Yuming was the Lingyun sect. As for the Lingyun sect, it was the sect that Yang Yuming's mother belonged to. However, a few years ago, the cloud-soaring sect's sect leader had offended an emperor. If Yang Yuming's mother had not pleaded on behalf of the soaring cloud sect leader, the soaring cloud sect would have been destroyed. Now that the emperor had suddenly made this arrangement, there was naturally a deeper meaning behind it. I see. The more Yang Zhaokai thought about it, the more excited he got. It was to the extent that he felt that the position of crown prince was none other than him. Because after Yang Yuming and Yang Qian fought, his vitality would definitely be greatly depleted. No matter which of the two of them won, the one who benefited in the end would be him. Between Ning Yu and Chen Feng, with Qin his strength, the victor between them was also something that was in the bag. Bang! While Yang Zhaokai was still thinking, the outcome of the battle in midair was already decided. As everyone expected, Yang Qian, whose cultivation was at rank 3 quasi-emperor realm, had the upper hand from the start. In the end, he still had the upper hand. He seized an opportunity and domineeringly defeated Yang Yuming, falling onto the ground, his complexion pale. It could be seen. Yang Qian's attacks were extremely ruthless, without the slightest intention of holding back. If not for Ning Yu admitting defeat on Yang Yuming's behalf, Yang Qian would likely have continued to launch attack. Old Chen, it's up to you next. Yang Qian withdrew helplessly and said to Chen Feng. The current Yang Qian was somewhat regretful in his heart. If he had known that Yang Yuming was so weak, he would definitely have changed his mind. If he had reached an agreement with Yang Yuming earlier, and the victor was the crown prince, wouldn't Chen Feng not need to fight with Ning Yu? Although Yang Qian thought highly of Chen Feng, who knew if Ning Yu had any trump cards? Yang Qian was very clear. How intense was the battle in the outer hall of the crown prince's palace? Even someone as strong as the crippled old man was killed by the joint attack of Ning Yu and Qin He. Under such circumstances, he did not believe that Ning Yu had no trump cards. No problem. Chen Feng nodded, then said to Ning Yu, you go first. Your cultivation is weaker than mine, so I'll let you make the first move, in case you don't even have a chance to attack later. Many thanks. Ning Yu did not stand on ceremony. He directly drew out the red demon sword and slashed in the air. Chen Feng had recovered to his peak, and Ning Yu had also advanced to the middle stage of the Third Order Quasi-Emperor. The reason why Chen Feng let Ning Yu make the first move was that he wanted to judge Ning Yu's true battle prowess through Ning Yu's first move. If Ning Yu was too strong, he would directly use his full strength to defeat Ning Yu. If Ning Yu was too weak, then he would properly play with Ning Yu. Kai. The sword light that Ning Yu slashed out was only as thick as an arm, and in the blink of an eye, it arrived before Chen Feng. Insignificant skill. Chen Feng casually threw out a fist light, which unavoidably collided with the sword light. The two collided. The sword light and the fist light disappeared at the same time, as if they had never appeared. You can withstand a punch with 30% of my strength. Chen Feng's expression gradually turned serious. The power of his punch just now was equivalent to 30% of his peak. Although he did not know how much of the power of Ning Yu's sword light was equivalent to that of his peak, he knew that Ning Yu was indeed a little difficult to deal with. He did not know whether Ning Yu was strong or not, but Ning Yu was really not weak. Use my full strength. Chen Feng's eyes flashed as he clenched his right hand into a fist and directly punched at Ning Yu. This punch. Chen Feng directly used his full strength, not holding back at all. How powerful was the full strength of a fifth-order quasi-emperor? In the eyes of the surrounding crowd, not to mention that Ning Yu was a middle-stage third-order quasi-emperor, even if Ning Yu was a peak quasi-emperor of the three realms, he might not be able to withstand it. However, how could Ning Yu be judged by common sense? Injecting energy into the red demon sword, Ning Yu similarly used his full strength. Crack. The next moment, a crisp sound rang out. Then, Chen Feng revealed a horrified expression and hurriedly retreated. How is this possible? Beside him, Yang Qian stared blankly at the palm that had fallen to the ground, completely dumbfounded. The palm of a fifth-order quasi-emperor, Chen Feng, was actually chopped off by an early third-order quasi-emperor. Not only Yang Qian, but the surrounding martial artists, including Ning Lu and Ao Xing, also did not dare to believe it. Wasn't this too terrifying? Chapter 2551. Devour. Seeing Chen Feng retreat, Ningyu flicked his wrist and tossed out the red demon sword. Kai. The red demon sword stuck to Chen Feng's severed hand, and a violent devouring power surged out. It only took 1 second. Chen Feng's hand was completely devoured and turned into nothingness. Gulp. Ningyu forcefully severed Chen Feng's hand and used the red demon sword to devour it, causing the surrounding martial artists to swallow a mouthful of saliva. They had seen low-level quasi-emperors fighting mid-level quasi-emperors before. Most of the martial artists of the Divine Wind Empire's Law Enforcement Hall could do this. However, the martial artists of the Law Enforcement Hall were all rank 3 quasi-emperors fighting rank 4 quasi-emperors. Ningyu, on the other hand, he had defeated Chen Feng with the cultivation of a rank 3 quasi-emperor. You're courting death. The immortal qi in Chen Feng's body surged and gradually poured into his arm, using the immortal qi to reform his hand. At Chen Feng's level of cultivation, he already possessed the ability to reform his hand. Not long later, his palm was unscathed. But everyone knew that, no matter how one looked at it, the new palm that Chen Feng had condensed was weaker than the previous one. He took a deep breath. Chen Feng looked coldly at Ningyu and said fiercely, "I will let you know what a real rank 5 quasi-emperor is." As he spoke, Chen Feng bent his legs slightly, and his body shot out like a sharp sword. Kai, Kai, Kai. Chen Feng's speed was so fast that the friction with the air produced a hissing sound. In a mere 0.1 second, Chen Feng arrived in front of Ningyu and used his left fist, which contained a terrifying energy fluctuation, to punch Ningyu's head. Chen Feng was very smart. He knew that his right hand had just been formed, and its power was extremely weak. Using his right hand to deal with Ningyu might not be of any use. Therefore, he used his left hand to deal with Ningyu, hoping to inflict serious damage on Ningyu. However, the ideal was great, but the reality was harsh. Condensing his right palm consumed too much of Chen Feng's energy. Under such circumstances, how could Chen Feng hurt Ningyu? Catcher. His left palm had just arrived in front of Ningyu when Ningyu brandished the red demon sword and slashed out. A crisp sound rang out. Then, Chen Feng's pupils shrank, and he quickly retreated. The same scene, the same result. However, this time, the palm that was severed was not the right hand but the left hand. Kai Kai. Ningyu controlled the red demon sword and quickly devoured Chen Feng's left palm. After losing 2 palms in a row, Chen Feng's heart was bleeding. Although he could condense a new palm, every time he did so, he would need to expend a lot of energy and even some vitality. Now that both of his palms had been chopped off and devoured by the red demon sword, Chen Feng's heart was bleeding. Admit defeat. If you continue to fight, your entire body will be devoured. Ningyu floated in the air, holding the red demon sword in his hand as he looked at Chen Feng and said calmly. In truth, if the battle continued, there was a chance that Ningyu would completely devour Chen Feng. However, there was also a chance that he would lose. After all, Chen Feng was a rank 5 quasi-emperor. He should still have some trump cards. If they fought head-on, it was likely that both sides would suffer. Furthermore, with Yang Qian here, he probably would not watch as Chen Feng was killed. At the last moment, Yang Qian would probably admit defeat on Chen Feng's behalf. In that case, if the battle continued, Ningyu would not be able to obtain any benefits. You want me to admit defeat? Dream on. Chen Feng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and condensed his left hand again. He said coldly, "You are indeed strong, but your soul power is not as strong as mine." Swish. In an instant, the soul power in Chen Feng's body surged out and frantically pressed toward Ningyu. In terms of martial strength, Chen Feng knew that even if he could defeat Ningyu, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Furthermore, the possibility of him winning was very low, even lower than the possibility of Ningyu defeating him. Using soul power to attack Ningyu was the wisest choice. Soul power? Ningyu's expression was calm. There was not the slightest fluctuation in his emotions. After advancing to the mid-stage rank 3 quasi-emperor, the strength of Ningyu's soul power was no weaker than an ordinary rank 5 quasi-emperor's. If Chen Feng wanted to defeat him with soul power, it would be more difficult than ascending to the heavens. Perhaps, I can completely devour him. Ningyu's gaze swept around as he thought to himself. As long as he could defeat Chen Feng's soul power, Chen Feng would most likely become a fool. Once Chen Feng became a fool, Ningyu had absolute confidence that he could control Chen Feng. After controlling Chen Feng and bringing him back to the 5th prince's residence, wouldn't he be able to do anything to him? What is Ningyu doing? Who knows? He's probably scared out of his wits. That's possible. Chen Feng's attainments in the Tao of the Soul are very profound. In terms of the martial way, he is on par with Ningyu. In terms of the Tao of the Soul, he should be able to easily crush Ningyu. Not necessarily. Some quasi-emperors objected. To be able to face a rank 5 quasi-emperor head-on and gain the upper hand, Ningyu is not a hothead. In my opinion, Ningyu is completely capable of defeating Chen Feng's soul power. That's right. Chen Feng's defeat is only a matter of time. Next, it will depend on whether Prince Yang Qian has a way to deal with Ningyu. Haha, Ningyu can even defeat Chen Feng. Why would he be afraid of Prince Yang Qian? There were two factions. One supported Ningyu, and the other supported Chen Feng. After all, the position of Crown Prince would appear between Yang Yuming and Yang Qian. Although it was risky to choose a side now, the benefits were also greater. After all, adding flowers to embroidery was not as good as providing timely help. Poochie. While the crowd was still discussing, the clash in the air had already begun. Chen Feng's soul power surged out, wanting to defeat Ningyu with lightning speed. Who would have thought? Ningyu's soul power had a terrifying defensive power. For a moment, Chen Feng was unable to break through Ningyu's soul power defensive barrier. Whoosh! On the other hand, Ningyu. As he constructed his soul power defensive barrier, he secretly separated a wisp of soul power and tore through the void, arriving in front of Chen Feng's physical body. Poochie. This wisp of soul power was Ningyu's origin soul power. Ordinary soul power was far from enough to control a rank 5 quasi-emperor like Chen Feng. He needed origin soul power to have a chance of success. After all, no one knew if Chen Feng had any backup plans. If Ningyu ambushed him, there was a chance that he would succeed or fail. But this time, Ningyu's worries were superfluous. In order to defeat Ningyu, Chen Feng unleashed all the soul power in his body, not holding anything back. Without any soul power, how could Chen Feng block Ningyu's soul power attack with just his physical body? Ah! A miserable shriek rang out. Ningyu's origin soul power entered Chen Feng's mind, completely taking over his body. Ningyu was ruthless. Chapter 2552. Battle. You. After the connection with his physical body was severed, Chen Feng's soul power became extremely fearful. This feeling made him extremely flustered. If he could not return his soul power to his physical body within the specified time, then his soul power would become a lonely soul. As for the soul power that had become a lonely soul, it couldn't exist for a long time. Unless he could find a new host or a treasure that could preserve his soul power, the lonely soul would automatically dissipate. What about you? Ningyu rolled his eyes and said to Chen Feng's soul, you have two choices now. First, submit to me. Second, I will destroy your soul power. Originally, Ningyu could only defend against Chen Feng's soul attack and could not destroy his soul power. But now, his origin soul power had severed the connection between Chen Feng's soul and physical body, causing the might of Chen Feng's soul power to decrease greatly. After descending, Ningyu could completely destroy the soul body. Damn it! Chen Feng cursed in his heart. He had no choice but to seriously consider this. Actually, Chen Feng wanted to inform Yang Qian to admit defeat on his behalf. Unfortunately, his soul power was firmly sealed by Ningyu, so he could not send any information to the outside world. Unless a sovereign emperor or a high-level quasi-emperor appeared, even a rank 6 quasi-emperor would not know his current situation. Have you thought about it? Ning Yu asked indifferently 3 minutes later. Yes, I choose to submit. Chen Feng gritted his teeth and decided to submit to Ning Yu first. Once his soul power returned to his physical body, he would then tangle with Ning Yu. He believed that as long as his soul force fused with his physical body, he would have the capital to fight against Ning Yu. After all, he still had many trump cards that he had not used. Enter the red demon sword. Ning Yu suddenly tossed out the red demon sword. Swish. Chen Feng did not hesitate. His soul power turned into a blur and entered the red demon sword. I admit defeat. The distant Chen Feng said the moment Chen Feng's soul entered the red demon sword. Without a doubt. It was Ning Yu's soul force that was controlling Chen Feng to speak. Voila. Chen Feng's admission of defeat caused a huge uproar in the crowd. Ning Yu had actually defeated Chen Feng, a rank 5 quasi-emperor. Good stuff. As soon as Chen Feng admitted defeat, Ning Lu revealed an ecstatic expression. Others might not know, but Ning Lu was very clear about it. Chen Feng's soul power was currently trapped within the red demon sword. Ning Lu was burning with anxiety. He wanted to enter the red demon sword to swallow Chen Feng's soul energy and refine the essence blood of a high-ranked quasi-emperor. He was different from Ning Yu. Ning Yu could refine the blood essence of a high-level quasi-emperor here to break through to mid-third rank 4 quasi-emperor, but he and Aoshing could not. There was no other reason. Aoshing was a true dragon, and he was the world tree. If he refined the essence blood of a high-ranked quasi-emperor here, he might expose his identity. 25th Prince, it's your turn. Ning Yu did not care about Chen Feng. He turned to look at Yang Qian and said indifferently, according to what you said before, as long as I can defeat you, the position of Crown Prince will be the 5th Prince's. That's right. Yang Qian gritted his teeth. This was the pit that he dug. No matter what, he had to fill it up. Taking a deep breath, Yang Qian secretly encouraged himself. He was an early 3rd rank 4 quasi-emperor, while Ning Yu was a mid-3rd rank 4 quasi-emperor. In terms of cultivation, he was a minor level lower than Ning Yu. Furthermore, he still had some trump cards. Ning Yu had just experienced a huge battle, so he might have a way to defeat Ning Yu. You are a prince, I'll let you make the first move, Ning Yu said with a smile when he saw that Yang Qian did not renege on his words. Okay. Yang Qian stomped his feet and his body shot out. The first move. Yang Qian did not hold back and used his full strength. Yang Qian was very clear. This might be his only chance. Since Ning Yu was passively defending, he could only use his full strength to see if he could defeat Ning Yu when Ning Yu was careless. Otherwise, if Ning Yu took the initiative to attack, his chances of winning would be very slim. His strength is not bad. Ning Yu did not panic too much when he saw Yang Qian charging at him. To be honest, Yang Qian's strength was only SOSO. Perhaps he could defeat an ordinary mid-3rd rank 4 quasi-emperor, but Ning Yu was not the same as an ordinary mid-3rd rank 4 quasi-emperor. Given his current strength, he could probably defeat more than 10 mid-3rd rank 4 quasi-emperors at the same time. Bang! In an instant, Yang Qian's fist arrived in front of Ning Yu and directly landed on Ning Yu's chest. Along with a clear and melodious sound rang out. Ning Yu did not move from his original position. On the other hand, Yang Qian was like a kite with a broken string, falling straight to the ground. Bang! The sound of flesh hitting the ground could be heard. Fart! Immediately, Yang Qian spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura dropped from the early 3rd rank 4 quasi-emperor realm to that of a rank 1 quasi-emperor realm. Moreover, it was still descending. Not long after, Yang Qian's aura dropped to the heaven-receiving realm. I lost. Yang Qian stood up with difficulty, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said to Yang Yuming, the position of Crown Prince belongs to you. After saying this, Yang Qian left without looking back, disappearing from everyone's sight. Shaw. Yang Qian's front foot had just disappeared when Yang Zhaokai took a step forward and said in a clear voice, I want to spar with Yang Yuming again. Just now, I was on the verge of breaking through and was unable to unleash my full strength. Boom. Yang Zhaokai's words caused a commotion among the crowd. Originally, everyone was prepared to be on good terms with Yang Yuming. Even those forces that had sided with Yang Zhaokai wanted to switch to Yang Yuming. But now, Yang Zhaokai came out and interfered, catching everyone off guard. Swish. In an instant, the surrounding martial artists shifted their gazes to midair. Whether Yang Zhaokai could spar with Yang Yuming depended on the emperor. The emperor's opinion was very important. If the emperor approved Yang Zhaokai's request, then the position of crown prince would be more inclined to Yang Zhaokai. But if the emperor rejected Yang Zhaokai's request, then Yang Yuming would be the crown prince. In midair, the emperor supported his chin with both hands, in a contemplative manner. According to the emperor's thoughts, he was more inclined to let Yang Zhaokai be the crown prince, because he had enmity with the forces on Yang Yuming's mother's side. However, the position of crown prince was of great importance. In another day, the Sacred Mountains Assembly would be held. At that time, the forces of the 100 Forest Domain, big and small, would send their geniuses over. The Divine Wind Empire's quota would be obtained by the crown prince. The emperor could see it. If it was a life-and-death battle, Yang Zhaokai was much stronger than Yang Yuming. The reason why Yang Zhaokai was defeated was because of his carelessness, and because Yang Yuming gave up a high-level quasi-emperor talisman. High-level quasi-emperor talismans were extremely precious. It was not that Yang Yuming was too strong, but that he was more willing to give up something. After pondering for a moment, the emperor said in a clear voice, "Let's do it this way. Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai will spar. The winner will be the crown prince, and the loser, at this point." The emperor paused for a moment. Chapter 2553. Chapter 2553. Chapter 2553 Cruel. Divine Wind Pool. Hearing the emperor mention the Divine Wind Pool, the expressions of the surrounding cultivators changed. The Divine Wind Pool was the most mysterious place in the Divine Wind Empire. All the martial artists who went in to cultivate, without exception, were able to increase their cultivation by 1 level. Of course, it was limited to those below rank 5 quasi-emperor. In other words, a rank 1 quasi-emperor could raise their cultivation to rank 2 quasi-emperor after cultivating for a day. Rank 2 quasi-emperor could raise their cultivation to rank 3 quasi-emperor, and rank 3 quasi-emperor could raise their cultivation to rank 4 quasi-emperor. As for rank 4 quasi-emperor, they could only raise their cultivation to peak rank 4 quasi-emperor and not rank 5 quasi-emperor. But even so, it was enough to make everyone envious. Yang Yuming and Yang Zhaokai were both peak rank 2 quasi-emperors. Even if they lost, they could still advance to rank 3 quasi-emperor. "Emperor, I don't think this is appropriate." Ning Yu looked at Yang Yuming, then at the confident Yang Zhaokai. He took a step forward and said, "The 5th prince has already fought twice in a short period of time. He defeated the 18th prince and lost to the 25th prince. Under such circumstances, the chances of him winning against the 18th prince will be very slim," Jian Wushuang said. The emperor raised his eyebrows. He looked at Ning Yu with interest and asked, "In your opinion, what should we do?" "It's simple. I will spar with Qin He." Ning Yu was neither servile nor overbearing. Strictly speaking, Ning Yu really did not want to face the emperor head-on. After all, the emperor was a high-level quasi-emperor. If he paid attention to him, he might discover some of his secrets. But now, it was a matter of life and death. Yang Yuming would lose without a doubt if he sparred with Yang Zhaokai. Once Yang Zhaokai became the crown prince, he would definitely invite him to the 18th prince's residence as a guest. Although it was a guest, it was actually a Hongmen banquet. "What do you think?" The emperor did not answer Ning Yu directly. He turned to look at Yang Zhaokai and asked. Yang Zhaokai's heart skipped a beat. However, he maintained his composure and said, "I don't mind. Qin He also wants to exchange pointers with Ning Yu. Why don't we let Qin He and Ning Yu fight?" Yang Zhaokai's lungs were about to explode. If Qin He and Ning Yu were to exchange pointers, some unforeseen events might occur. However, the current situation did not allow Yang Zhaokai to have any opinions. There were so many princes and quasi-emperors around. If he dared to forcefully exchange pointers with Yang Yuming, those princes would probably join forces to deal with him. "All right, The next battle will be between Qin He and Ning Yu. The imperial monarch waved his hand, and then he tore open space and entered it. Everyone could see that. Before the sovereign emperor left, his expression was a little cold. I'm afraid the emperor's choice of crown prince is the 18th prince, Yang Zhaokai. Isn't that obvious? If the 5th prince, Yang Yuming, wishes to defy the heavens and change his fate, he will have to see if the emperor agrees to it. Hehe, let's just wait and watch the show. Whoever wins the position of crown prince, we will submit to him. That's right. Everyone discussed animatedly. This was the reality. If Ning Yu defeated Qin He, then Yang Yuming would be the crown prince, and everyone would definitely choose to curry favor with Yang Yuming. If Qin He defeated Ning Yu, then Yang Zhaokai would be the crown prince, and everyone would definitely choose to curry favor with Yang Zhaokai. Ning Yu, I've already swallowed the tyrant dragon elixir. Surrender. Qin He placed his hands behind his back, looked at Ning Yu, and said indifferently, with my current strength, I can even easily defeat a rank 5 quasi-emperor. You are not a match for me. We haven't even exchanged blows, and you are already so sure that I am not a match for you. Ning Yu glanced at Qin He, his expression calm. To be honest, Qin He had swallowed the tyrant dragon elixir, and his strength had indeed increased a lot. However, this was not enough to make Ning Yu afraid. After all, the tyrant dragon elixir had a time limit. 3 minutes. At most 3 minutes, the effects of the tyrant dragon elixir would fade. At that time, how could Qin He fight with him? Of course. Qin He shouted in a low voice, then rose from the ground. His fist carried a violent energy wave as it smashed toward Ning Yu's head. The might of this punch was terrifyingly strong. An ordinary peak rank 4 quasi-emperor would not be able to block it. After swallowing the tyrant dragon elixir, Qin He's strength had more than doubled. When he attacked with his full strength, even a rank 5 quasi-emperor would have to avoid him. Chop! Ning Yu's pupils constricted, and the red demon sword in his hand slashed through the air. Whoosh! In an instant, several sword lights flew out, surrounding Qin He from all directions. Crack! Crack! However, the might of Qin He's fist was very terrifying. The moment it came into contact with the sword lights, it shattered them. Interesting. Qin He raised his eyebrows and looked at Ning Yu. I did not expect your strength to increase so quickly. It seems like I have to teach you a lesson today. Otherwise, if I let you continue to grow, the consequences will be dire. In Qin He's opinion, Ning Yu was different from Yang Yuming. When he sparred with Yang Yuming, he definitely could not injure Yang Yuming. However, when he sparred with Ning Yu, he could injure Ning Yu. In fact, he could even kill Ning Yu if he was careless. After all, he knew that the emperor's choice for crown prince was Yang Zhaokai. Even if he killed Ning Yu, the emperor would not say anything. You are not weak either. Ning Yu said seriously. At the same time, Ning Yu continuously poured the energy in his body into the red demon sword and slashed with it. Whoosh! This time, only one sword light shot out. However, the might of this sword light was more terrifying than the dozens of sword lights combined. Break! Qin He stood where he was and grabbed at the void with his right hand. In an instant, a cold light shot out. The cold light collided with the sword light that Ning Yu had slashed out. Crack! Along with a clear and melodious sound rang out. The cold light and the sword light shattered at the same time and dissipated between heaven and earth. 2.5 minutes left. After 2 moves, Ning Yu took a step back and calculated the time secretly. The violent dragon elixir only had 3 minutes of effect. Now half a minute had passed. In other words, Qin He's current strength could only last for 2.5 minutes. Once the time passed, Qin He would even show signs of weakness. It seems that I have to use my big move to deal with you. Qin He took a deep breath and looked at Ning Yu expressionlessly. He said, you can force me to use my big move. Even if you are defeated by me, you should be proud. Swoosh! Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Qin He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood instantly burned in the air. After a while, the blood turned into a cloud of blood mist. Go! Qin He's soul power surged, controlling the cloud of blood mist to attack Ningyu at an extremely terrifying speed. The blood mist was so fast that it almost reached Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Furthermore, when the blood mist arrived in front of Ningyu, it suddenly exploded. Countless tiny blood beads appeared and surrounded Ningyu from all directions. Ningyu, I will ask you for the last time. Surrender or not. Chapter 2554. Chapter 2554. Chapter 2554 Victory. 2 more minutes. Ningyu did not care about Qin his threat. To him, as long as he could hold on for 2 more minutes, he could easily defeat Qin He. Under such circumstances, no matter how Qin He threatened him, he would not act rashly. After all, if he could defeat Qin He easily, why would he go through so much trouble to fight? If he was injured by Qin He, would he not even have tears to cry? You're courting death. Ningyu's indifferent behavior enraged Qin He. With a thought, he controlled countless tiny blood-colored beads and sent them flying toward Ningyu. Kai. These tiny beads were very fast, and they approached Ningyu in an instant. It was a critical moment. Ningyu waved the red devil sword continuously, fighting against these tiny blood-colored beads. Although the blood-colored beads were very powerful, the sword gleam that Ningyu slashed out was also very powerful. About a minute later, the blood-colored beads were all smashed by the sword gleam that Ningyu slashed out and disappeared between heaven and earth. I have underestimated you. Seeing the blood-colored beads dissipate, Qin His face turned very ugly. He admitted that he had indeed underestimated Ningyu. Originally, he thought that after swallowing the violent dragon elixir, he could easily defeat Ningyu. But now, 2 minutes had passed since the violent dragon elixir took effect, and he still could not defeat Ningyu. In fact, he was at a disadvantage. It had to be said. Ningyu's strength was indeed very powerful. However, Qin He was not particularly worried. After all, the violent dragon elixir was a violent dragon elixir. The moment before the effect of the elixir disappeared, it could erupt with a terrifying energy. The reason why Qin He was so at ease was that he felt that the energy that would erupt later could defeat Ningyu. Tick. Time was ticking away. In the 3rd minute. Whether it was Ningyu or Qin He, both of them were paying 100% attention. For Ningyu, as long as he could survive this 1 minute, he would be able to defeat Qin He easily. As for Qin He, as long as he could persist until the end of the 3rd minute, he would be able to unleash his terrifying energy and defeat Ningyu. In the blink of an eye, the 3rd minute passed. A terrifying energy wrapped around Qin His fist as he threw a backhand punch at Ningyu. On the other hand, Ningyu, unwilling to fall behind, he forcibly swallowed 100 drops of low-grade Great Emperor spiritual liquid and transformed them into energy, which collided with Qin His attack. The two extremely terrifying energies collided, causing the surrounding void to emit crackling sounds, as if it was about to split open. Fortunately, a high-level quasi-emperor from the Divine Wind Empire stabilized the space. Otherwise, the collision of energy between Ningyu and Qin He would be enough to explode the void and affect the surrounding warriors. Even so, the void still trembled. Some low-level quasi-emperors even prostrated themselves on the ground, unable to even raise their heads. The remaining mid-level quasi-emperors were in a better state. Who won? I'm not sure. In my opinion, it should be Qin He who won. After all, he's a peak rank 4 quasi-emperor. Humph. Ningyu can even defeat a rank 5 quasi-emperor, not to mention a peak rank 4 quasi-emperor. What's the commotion about? When the shockwaves dissipate, we will naturally know who won and who lost. The surrounding warriors' discussion made a mid-level rank 5 quasi-emperor's expression turn ugly. This mid-level rank 5 quasi-emperor was called Zhao Shuai, and he was quite close to young Zhao Kai. For some reason, Zhao Shuai had a feeling that Qin He would be defeated, and this feeling became more and more obvious as the surrounding shockwaves dissipated. Whoosh. After a while, the shockwaves dissipated. Zhao Shuai's expression turned extremely unsightly when he saw the figure still standing where he was. Ningyu. The warrior standing was not Qin He, but Ningyu. As for Qin He He was lying on the ground like a dead dog, his aura weak. How dare you? Zhao Shui first stared at Qin He, then his gaze landed on Ningyu, and he said viciously, "You guys were just exchanging pointers, and you actually dealt such a heavy blow. Looks like you can't be spared today." Whoosh. As he spoke, Zhao Shui's feet stomped on the ground, his body speeding out. Not good. Seeing Zhao Shui attack, Ninglu and Aoxing's expressions changed slightly. Ningyu had just experienced a great battle, and the energy in his body was practically exhausted. How could he be a match for a mid-level rank 5 quasi-emperor at this time? The two of them blocked in front of Ningyu, one on the left and one on the right. Each of them punched out, colliding with Zhao Shui's fist. Bang! Bang! After 2 punches, Zhao Shui's heart trembled, and he hurriedly retreated. One-on-one, perhaps Zhao Shui could easily defeat Ninglu and Aoxing. But, 1 against 2, he had no way of winning in a short time. According to the emperor's words, if Ningyu defeated Qin He, Yang Yuming would be the crown prince. At this time, if he lost the chance to kill Ningyu, he could not make another move. After all, he already felt the aura of a few rank 6 quasi-emperors locked onto him. Yang Yuming was the crown prince. There would definitely be rank 6 quasi-emperors seeking refuge with him. I'll remember. Ningyu swept a glance at Zhao Shui and said to himself, just a mid-level rank 5 quasi-emperor. As long as he had some time, when his cultivation advanced to late-level rank 3 quasi-emperor, he naturally would not fear Zhao Shui. Buzz. Right at this time, the void trembled, and the emperor appeared. The emperor's expression was calm, not showing any joy or anger. He said, Yang Yuming is the crown prince. Yang Zhaokai can go to the divine wind pool to cultivate for a day. Next, Yang Yuming will follow me to meet a few people. Whoosh. The emperor did not stay here for long. He leaped up, speeding into the distance. Halfway through the flight, the emperor seemed to have received some kind of message. He stopped in midair, turned back to look at Yang Yuming, and said, "Bring your aides along." Yes. Yang Yuming responded and hurried to Ningyu's side, saying, "Many thanks. It's fine." Ningyu waved his hand and said, "Do you know what the emperor wants you to do? The Divine Wind Empire has a total of 2 divine wind pools." Yang Yuming lowered his voice and said, "The divine wind pool that Yang Zhaokai went to is the outer pool. The effect of cultivating there is not very good. We should go to the inner pool. Cultivating in the inner pool for an hour is more effective than cultivating in the outer pool for a day." Outer pool, inner pool. Ningyu frowned slightly. This was the first time he heard that the divine wind pool had an outer pool and an inner pool. Shaking his head, Ningyu did not think too much about it. The inner pool and outer pool should only be open to the princes and crown princes. He, Ninglu, and the rest would probably not be able to enter. Let's go. Don't let the emperor wait too long. Yang Yuming's figure flashed, and he followed the emperor. Ningyu, Aoxing, and the rest hesitated slightly, then followed behind Yang Yuming and disappeared. Crack. After Ningyu and the others disappeared, Yang Zhaokai clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. A cold look appeared on his face. Let's wait and see. Yang Zhaokai's expression was cold. In his heart, he had already sentenced Ningyu, Yang Yuming, and the others to death. Chapter 2555. People from the sacred mountain at the edge of the divine wind pool. The emperor pointed to the pool in front of him and said calmly, "This is the divine wind pool. You can cultivate in it for 2 hours. Come and see me at the divine wind hall after 2 hours." Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, the Empyrean emperor's figure flashed, and he disappeared into the void. Let's go. As soon as the emperor disappeared, Yang Yuming leaped into the divine wind pool. Splash. After Yang Yuming jumped into the pool, Ningyu could clearly see the pool water around him entering his body. The effect is indeed not bad. Ningyu nodded lightly. At this rate, Yang Yuming would be able to reach the peak of the 3rd-tier quasi-emperor realm in less than 2 hours. The divine wind pool was indeed worthy of its reputation. Let's go too. Ningyu did not hesitate for long, and he also jumped into the divine wind pool. Beside him, Ao Xing and Ning Lu also followed closely behind Ningyu and entered the divine wind pool. As soon as they entered the divine wind pool, Ningyu felt a large amount of energy entering his body through his pores. This energy was extremely pure, so pure that it was terrifying. I wonder if I can absorb them into the red demon sword. With a thought, Ningyu began to control this energy and quietly transfer it to the red demon sword. There's a chance. Suddenly, Ningyu's heart leaped with joy. Without a doubt. In the divine wind pool, apart from the four of them, no other magic treasures could absorb energy. However, the energy could be transferred to the magic treasures after passing through their bodies. This also prevented a situation where a large amount of energy was wasted. After all, maintaining the divine wind pool required a lot of resources. I'd better make a breakthrough first. Ningyu did not continue to transfer energy to the red demon sword. He took a deep breath and began to absorb energy to cultivate. The higher his cultivation, the faster he could absorb energy. It was clearly unwise to waste time on the red demon sword now. At this time, he had to focus on cultivation. It would be much faster to absorb the energy after breaking through to the next realm. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. Ningyu and the others could stay in the divine wind pool for 2 hours. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. Boom. A terrifying aura suddenly emerged from Ningyu's body. Late third rank quasi-emperor. In half an hour, Ningyu broke through to the late third order quasi-emperor realm. On the other hand, Yang Yuming had advanced from the peak of the second rank to the middle of the third rank. As for Ao Xing and Ning Lu, they were still at the peak of rank 3 quasi-emperor and had not advanced to rank 4 quasi-emperor. Time was still passing. When it was the second hour, Yang Yuming's breakthrough speed had clearly slowed down, and he had only advanced to late third order quasi-emperor. Ao Xing and Ning Lu were still peak rank 3 quasi-emperors. Ningyu's cultivation had reached peak late third rank quasi-emperor, but there was still some distance to go before he could become a peak late third rank quasi-emperor. The higher the level, the harder it was to advance. Rumble. Time flew. When there were only 10 minutes left before the 2 hours were up, 4 terrifying auras were emitted from Ningyu and the other 3. Yang Yuming had advanced to the peak of the third rank quasi-emperor. Ning Lu and Ao Xing had advanced to the early 4th rank quasi-emperor. Ningyu had also advanced to the peak of the 3rd rank quasi-emperor. In the remaining 10 minutes, Yang Yuming and the others did not continue to cultivate but chose to stabilize their cultivation. After all, their cultivation had increased so much in such a short time. There would definitely be a situation where it was superficial. The last 10 minutes could be used to stabilize their cultivation to prevent qi deviation. Compared to the others, Ningyu did not need to stabilize his cultivation. He used the last 10 minutes to frantically devour energy. At the very least, he could store the energy in the red demon sword. On one hand, it could help the red demon sword to refine it, and on the other hand, it could be used as a backup plan. After advancing to the peak of the 3rd rank quasi-emperor, Ningyu's strength had a qualitative leap. Originally, he could barely win against an early 5th rank quasi-emperor if he used all his trump cards. But now, if he encountered an early 5th rank quasi-emperor again, he only needed to use his martial strength to crush him easily. During this time, Ningyu did not cultivate the God of War transformation or the Great Tao of Devouring. After all, time was limited. If he could stay in the Divine Wind Pond for another day, Ningyu would definitely cultivate the God of War transformation and the Great Tao of Devouring. The last 10 minutes passed very quickly. Time's up. After 10 minutes, a deep voice rang in Ningyu and the others' ears. Following that, Ningyu and the others felt their bodies lighten, and they left the Divine Wind Pond and arrived at the edge. High-tier quasi-emperor. Ningyu had a grave expression. He could clearly sense that the cultivator who moved him out of the Divine Wind Pond was at least a 7th rank quasi-emperor. Let's go to the Divine Wind Palace. After 2 hours of cultivation, Yang Yuming felt as if he had become a whole new person. Not only had his cultivation reached the peak of the 3rd rank quasi-emperor, but even his aura had changed. It was as if Yang Yuming had experienced many things. Ningyu did not ask anything. Everyone had a trump card. If Yang Yuming did not say anything, he would not ask. At the same time, inside the Divine Wind Palace, the Emperor sat at the head of the table, and to his left sat 3 young cultivators. These 3 young cultivators all had terrifying cultivation, and each of them was a 6th-rank quasi-emperor. As for the Emperor's right, there were also 3 young cultivators. Relatively speaking, the young cultivator on the Emperor's right was much weaker than the one on the left, and his cultivation was only at the peak of the 5th-rank quasi-emperor. At this moment, a young cultivator dressed in white on the left looked at the Emperor and said, "Divine Wind Emperor, these 3 cultivators have exceeded the age limit. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for them to participate in the Holy Mountain Conference. Moreover, the Emperor only gave 1 quota, haha, I know about the quota." The Emperor smiled and waved his hand. The 3 of them will not participate in the Holy Mountain Conference, but will escort the Crown Prince along the way. Could it be that the Emperor does not trust us? The white-robed cultivator's expression changed, and he asked in a low voice. "It's not that I don't trust you, but it's customary." The Emperor said calmly. Even though the Emperor had the cultivation of a high-level quasi-emperor, he did not dare to force these 3 young cultivators. Because they came from the Holy Mountain, and the Holy Mountain was a superforce with a great emperor, ruling over the 100 Forest domain. Even if the Emperor was given 10 guts, he would not dare to be disrespectful to the people of the Holy Mountain. Unless he could take the final step. Of course. He was only a high-level quasi-emperor now, and there was a huge gap between him and the final step. Since the Emperor has decided, it's not our place to say anything. Chapter 2556. Chapter 2556. Chapter 2556 Ruthless. Oh! The Emperor raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion, "Why are you bringing them away? Could they be related to the Holy Mountain?" "Divine Wind Emperor," the cultivator in black said seriously, "this concerns the internal affairs of the Holy Mountain. I hope the Emperor will not get involved." "I was just asking casually," the Emperor said with a shrug. "Oh, right. I will only give you 4 slots this time. Aside from His Highness the Crown Prince, I will also let him bring 3 followers. Let's make it these 3 peak rank 5 quasi-emperors." The cultivator in black looked at the 3 peak rank 5 quasi-emperors opposite him and said indifferently. However, as soon as the cultivator in black finished speaking, on the Holy Mountain's side, the last young cultivator in blue said, "There's no need. Let Ningyu and the others go. The slots for the Holy Mountain Conference are limited. Even if they are followers, they cannot be brought casually." Swish. The Emperor's expression changed slightly when he heard the cultivator in blue's words. He arranged for 3 peak rank 5 quasi-emperors to go with Yang Yuming. Not only could they keep an eye on Yang Yuming, but they could also help him gather information about the Holy Mountain. However, the blue-clothed martialist's decision had disrupted his plans to a certain extent. At this moment, 4 figures appeared in front of the Divine Wind Palace. "Come in." The Emperor's face lit up when he saw the 4 cultivators suddenly appear. Then, he said calmly, "These are the outstanding talents of the Holy Mountain. Go and greet them." The cultivator in blue frowned slightly. To be honest, the Emperor's behavior was somewhat abnormal. There must be a reason for this abnormality. If they did not give up more slots today, there would be some trouble. These Holy Mountain envoys did indeed have many slots. However, it was hard to appease everyone. You want me to give up more slots, and he wants me to give up more slots. Even if there were many slots, they could not afford to go through so much trouble. The cultivator in blue did not reveal anything on the surface even though he thought so. At most, 1 slot. The cultivator in blue looked at the 3 peak rank 5 quasi-emperors opposite him and thought to himself. Giving up 1 slot, together with Ningyu and the other 2, and Yang Yuming, that would be 5 slots. Wasting 5 spots on a country like the Divine Wind Empire was indeed not worth it. However, when the blue-clad cultivator thought about the additional rewards for bringing Ningyu and the others back to the Holy Mountain, he felt relieved. "Greetings, envoy of the sacred mountain. Yang Yuming said as if he was very familiar with her. You. The blue-clothed martial artist did not pay attention to Yang Yuming at first. After all, Yang Yuming was just a crown prince of the Divine Wind Empire. However, for some reason, he found something unusual about Yang Yuming. Yang Yuming's temperament was very similar to a person, very similar. Although that person was a woman, their temperament was not much different. How about this? The sovereign emperor did not notice the change in the blue-clad cultivator's expression. After thinking for a while, he said, "The matter of the slots is very important. In my opinion, let Ning Yu and the others exchange pointers with these rank 5 quasi-emperors. Whoever wins will go to the Holy Mountain." The sovereign emperor had deliberately concealed his peak rank 5 quasi-emperor cultivation, only saying that he was a rank 5 quasi-emperor. Ever since Ning Yu and the others came out of closed-door seclusion, the sovereign emperor determined Ning Yu and the others' cultivation. Peak rank 3 quasi-emperor and rank 4 quasi-emperor. Ning Yu was a peak rank 3 quasi-emperor. Ning Lu and Ao Xing were rank 4 quasi-emperors. With this cultivation, the chances of winning against a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor were practically zero. He said this in order to create a false impression for Ning Yu and prevent Ning Yu from being unwilling to exchange pointers. Sovereign Emperor, this is not too appropriate, right? The blue-clad cultivator's expression changed slightly. The Sovereign Emperor was clearly giving him a difficult problem by doing this. Exchange pointers? What a joke. Even if he believed in the Emperor's selection criteria, how could these rank 3 and rank 4 quasi-emperors possibly win against a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor? There's nothing inappropriate about it. Let's ask Ning Yu and the others for their opinion first. The Sovereign Emperor smiled faintly and looked at Ning Yu, asking, "What do you think?" The Holy Mountain slot is of great importance. Anyone who can go to the Holy Mountain will advance rapidly in cultivation. As long as you can defeat these rank 5 quasi-emperors, you can go to the Holy Mountain. Do you think I'm a fool? Ning Yu did not reply immediately. Instead, he inwardly slandered the Sovereign Emperor. A peak rank 5 quasi-emperor was extremely powerful. Even if he advanced to peak rank 3 quasi-emperor, his chances of winning against a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor were not high. Unless he could improve further and reach the half-step rank 4 quasi-emperor realm. Glancing at Ao Xing and Ning Lu, Ning Yu felt that they were about the same as him and should not be able to defeat a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor. At this thought, Ning Yu said, "Sovereign Emperor, our strength is low. I'm only a peak rank 3 quasi-emperor, here, this." The Sovereign Emperor interrupted Ning Yu and casually tossed out 3 blood-red fruits. Swish, swish, swish. Ning Yu, Ning Lu, and Ao Xing each caught a blood-red fruit. A peak early-stage emperor fruit. Looking at the blood-red fruit in his hand, Ning Yu was finally moved. In order to scheme against him, the Sovereign Emperor had gone to great lengths and even took out a peak early-stage emperor fruit. "You can refine this fruit here. It won't be too late to spar after you're done," the Sovereign Emperor said. "Then we won't refuse." Ning Yu sat down cross-legged and tossed the fruit into his mouth. Beside him, Ning Lu and Ao Xing did the same. They tossed the fruit into their mouths and began to cultivate. Interesting. The cultivator in blue looked at Ning Yu and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He muttered, "The person that the Emperor values is indeed extraordinary. I wonder how strong he is." Ao Xing was a true dragon, and Ning Lu was a world tree. The cultivator in blue had heard this news from his elder brother. As for Ning Yu, he was an ordinary person. Ao Xing and Ning Lu had to be brought to the Holy Mountain because they were very important. But Ning Yu, an ordinary person, was singled out by the Emperor. This was enough to show that Ning Yu was not ordinary. Among the 3 cultivators, the cultivator in white was called Xie Jiao, the cultivator in black was called Xie Hu, and the cultivator in blue was called Zhu Jiahao. All 3 of them were early-stage rank 6 quasi-emperors. Zhu Jiahao's status was clearly much higher than Xie Jiao and Xie Hu. Zhu Jiahao, the higher-ups said that we must bring Ning Yu and the others back to the Holy Mountain no matter what. Xie Jiao lowered his voice and said, Ningyu will definitely lose against those peak rank 5 quasi-emperors. The Divine Wind Emperor is determined to make us give 3 more spots. In my opinion, we should just bring Ningyu and the others away. It's fine, it's just 3 spots. Moreover, I feel that Ningyu is not simple. Zhu Jiahao waved his hand. Not simple? Xie Jiao and Xie, who were slightly taken aback. Then, their gazes fell on Ningyu. Hiss. With one look, the two of them sucked in a breath of cold air and their expressions turned grave. Chapter 2557. Chapter 2557. Chapter 2557. No objection. After obtaining the 5 emperor-grade medicinal pills from the lame old man, Ningyu now had a total of 7 emperor-grade medicinal pills. After swallowing 3, he still had 4 emperor-grade medicinal pills on him. There were 3 Holy Mountain Heaven's Prides and the Emperor in the Divine Wind Hall. Ningyu could completely rest assured and cultivate here without worrying about being disturbed by others. After all, the Emperor wanted him to spar with those rank 5 quasi-emperors, so he definitely would not play petty tricks. The facts proved. The Emperor indeed did not play petty tricks. In fact, the medicinal pills that the Emperor gave Ningyu and the others were the most effective medicinal pills of the same grade, in order to let Ningyu and the others advance as soon as possible. About half an hour passed. Boom. A terrifying aura was first emitted from Ningyu's body, early rank 4 quasi-emperor, after refining 3 emperor-grade medicinal pills and a peak early emperor-grade fruit. Ningyu's cultivation directly broke through to rank 4 quasi-emperor. Boom. Boom. Ao Xing and Ninglu followed closely behind Ningyu. Both of them were intermediate rank 4 quasi-emperors. Can we spar now? Seeing Ningyu and the others breaking through, the Emperor asked eagerly. Yes. Ningyu nodded and said, 3 against 3, or 1 against 1. Huh. The Emperor did not expect Ningyu to be so calm, and for a moment, he was somewhat stunned. However, the Emperor was a high-level quasi-emperor after all. After a brief daze, he quickly reacted and said, 1 against 1. 3 against 3, there may be accidents. I have no objection. Ao Xing said. I have no objection either. Ninglu shrugged. Advancing to rank 4 quasi-emperor, Ninglu and Ao Xing no longer feared peak rank 5 quasi-emperors. Whether it was 3 against 3 or 1 against 1, they could easily win. The first battle, let Long San fight Ao Xing. The Emperor regained his composure and pointed to a stern-looking young man below. Long San, spar. Don't overdo it. Yes. Long San stood up, cupped his hands towards Ao Xing, and then rushed out like a sharp sword. I can't believe it. Long San's sudden attack caught Ao Xing somewhat off guard. However, that was all. Ao Xing's right hand clenched into a fist and collided with Long San's fist. Bang! The two fists collided. Long San and Ao Xing retreated several steps at the same time. Just from the distance they retreated, Long San and Ao Xing were evenly matched in this strike. Neither could do anything to the other. This sort of situation had obviously exceeded the Emperor's expectations. Originally, he thought that if Long San made a move, dealing with the mid-4th order Ao Xing, he would probably be able to defeat him in one move. But now, it looked like Long San did not gain the upper hand in the first move. Interesting. The corners of the Emperor's mouth curled up in disdain. Although Long San didn't gain any advantage in his first move, he wasn't worried at all. After all, Ao Xing was temporarily unable to make up for the difference in cultivation. A peak rank 5 quasi-emperor and a middle rank 4 quasi-emperor. It would be very difficult for Ao Xing to win if this continued. Rumble. The battle continued. The battle between Ao Xing and Long San was full of highlights. After his cultivation recovered to middle rank 4 quasi-emperor, Ao Xing could already use some trump cards. How powerful was Ao Xing after using his trump cards? Strictly speaking, if it was really a life-and-death battle, Ao Xing only needed 1 minute to kill Long San domineeringly. However, before Ao Xing and Long San exchanged pointers, Ningyu quietly told him not to end the battle too quickly. There was no other reason. Since the Emperor thought of such a method, it showed that he very much wanted Long San and the rest to go to the Holy Mountain to participate in that whatever Holy Mountain conference. And looking at the intentions of those three martial artists, it seemed like they did not intend to let Long San and the rest go. All in all, it was more chaotic. Under such circumstances, it was best to appear evenly matched and defeat Long San with a difference of one move. Ao Xing did this and accomplished it. After fighting with Long San for a full 10 minutes, Ao Xing finally caught hold of Long San's floor and sent him flying backward. Damn it! Ning Yu clearly noticed. When Long San was defeated, the emperor clenched his fists tightly, his expression extremely unsightly. Although the emperor quickly returned to normal, Ning Yu's sharp perception still caught it. I have to leave the Divine Wind Empire as soon as possible. Ning Yu secretly made up his mind. Before his cultivation broke through to high-level quasi-emperor, no matter what, he could not return to the Divine Wind Empire. This time, he had helped Yang Yuming obtain the Crown Prince position and gained many benefits. In the 2 hours of cultivation in the Divine Wind Pool, not only did his cultivation rise to peak rank 3 quasi-emperor, but he also absorbed a large amount of energy and stored it in the Red Demon Sword. As for Ao Xing and Ning Lu, they also gained many benefits, and their cultivation rose to early rank 4 quasi-emperor. What was more exaggerated was that they also swallowed and refined the fruit given by the emperor, and their cultivation improved further. He advanced to early rank 4 quasi-emperor, while Ning Lu and Ao Xing advanced to middle rank 4 quasi-emperor. Ao Xing wins. Zhu Jiahao casually glanced at the emperor and said indifferently, in the second match, let Long and Ning Yu exchange pointers. In truth, Zhu Jiahao's arrangement was to help Ning Yu. After all, the difference in strength between Long Da and Long was quite big. Long was a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor, while Long Da was comparable to an ordinary half-step rank 6 quasi-emperor. Of course, it was not that Long Da's cultivation had reached half-step rank 6 quasi-emperor, but that he had some items on him that could let him burst out with the strength of a half-step rank 6 quasi-emperor. In the second match, let Long and Ning Lu exchange pointers. The emperor naturally had to stop Zhu Jiahao's arrangement. From the exchange between Ao Xing and Long San, the emperor had already figured out some things. Ao Xing and Ning Lu were not to be trifled with. Rather than that, it was better to let Long and Ning Lu exchange pointers. Even if Long Da lost in the end, he would have Long Da to back him up. The emperor did not think that Long Da would lose. With the trump cards on Long Da, even a half-step rank 6 quasi-emperor would not dare to say that they could defeat him. What do you think? Zhu Jiahao's expression changed slightly, and he turned to look at Ning Yu and Ning Lu. Who is the second one? I'll do it. Ning Lu glanced at Long Da, then at Ning Yu. Then, he stepped forward and said, I'll spar with Long Ning Lu was clearer than anyone about Ning Yu's strength. Among the three of them, Ao Xing had some trump cards, and his strength might be able to contend with Ning Yu. However, if he really fought to the death, he might not be able to win. It was more conservative to let Ning Yu exchange pointers with Long Da. I have no objections. Ning Yu shrugged. Actually, in Ning Yu's heart, whether he sparred with Long Da or Long he would definitely win in the end. Chapter 2558. Chapter 2558. Chapter 2558. Punishments. Very well, Long don't fight to the death. The emperor glanced at Long and said indifferently. Although the emperor lord said this, his tone did not seem to indicate that he wanted Long Yi to show mercy. It seemed. Long defeat made him feel suffocated. Swish. The emperor's voice fell. Long rose from the ground and rushed towards Ning Road at an extremely terrifying speed. Long was very fast. So fast that Ning Lu did not have time to react before he closed in. Bang! A punch blasted out. Long fist, which contained terrifying energy, could not be avoided and landed on Ning Lu's chest. The huge force directly sent Ning Lu flying back several feet until he hit a stone pillar behind him. Only then did he stabilize his body. This attack. Long had the absolute upper hand. Not enough. However, Ning Lu did not care. He raised his eyebrows at Long and said, "If you only have this little strength, then I'm afraid it will be difficult to defeat me." "Kill!" Long roared and suddenly dashed out. In the process of advancing, Long body emitted a golden light, and a golden armor appeared all over his body. Emperor armor. The armor that Long wore was an early-stage Emperor armor with extremely strong defensive power. Given Long peak rank 5 quasi-Emperor strength, he could already faintly use the power of Emperor armor. Generally speaking, quasi-Emperor experts, even if they had Emperor magic treasures, could not unleash their full power. The Emperor magic treasures that Ningyu seized earlier were completely because the other party could not unleash their full power. Otherwise, he would probably be a cold corpse by now. The Red Demon Sword was now an early-stage Emperor flying sword. According to Ningyu's preliminary estimation, he could only use about 40% of the Red Demon Sword's power. Long was a peak rank 5 quasi-Emperor, he might be able to use about 50% of the Emperor armor's power. Go. Facing Emperor armor. Ninglu was not afraid. A dark green light shot out from his body and arrived in front of Long in the blink of an eye, slamming into Long chest. Bang! This time, it was not Ninglu who was sent flying, but Long Catcher. As Dragon 2 was wearing an Emperor rank armor, when he collided with the stone pillar was directly smashed into pieces. Could it be? The Emperor frowned slightly when he saw the emerald green light shooting out of Ninglu's body. He seemed to have guessed something, yet he didn't. Rumble. If it was under normal circumstances, the Celestial Emperor would definitely think about it carefully. After all, the information in his mind was fleeting. However, he was more concerned about the quota to go to the Sacred Mountain. If Long 2 couldn't win, then the final hope would be on Long Da ever since Long 2 and Ninglu started exchanging pointers. The Emperor had been paying attention to the changes in Ningyu's expression. From the beginning to the end, Ningyu did not show the slightest hint of panic. This shocked the Empyrean Emperor. Could it be that Ningyu didn't know about Senior Dragon's strength? Or did Ningyu think that he could defeat Dragon City University easily? Regardless of the situation, it wasn't good news for the Imperial Monarch. Looks like I have to give Senior Dragon City something. The Emperor glanced at Zhu Jiahao, then at Xiehu and Xiejiao. A high-grade Emperor talisman quietly appeared in his right sleeve. Swish. With a thought, the Emperor forcibly tore the void apart and sent the high-grade Emperor talisman to Senior Dragon City. Huh! The Emperor's action did not completely avoid Zhu Jiahao. Zhu Jiahao raised his eyebrows and looked at the Emperor. He said in a deep voice, "I don't want the Emperor to participate before the outcome of their battle is decided." Haha, no problem. The Emperor smiled faintly, not minding. In any case, he had already given the high-grade Emperor talisman to Senior Dragon City. With a high-grade Emperor talisman, so what if Ningyu was strong? Could it be Ningyu also had a high-grade Emperor talisman? What a joke! Every high-grade Emperor talisman was extremely precious and could only be refined after thousands of refinements. An ordinary high-grade Emperor talisman would find it difficult to refine even if they wanted to. Now that Senior Dragon City had a high-grade Emperor talisman, the Emperor felt that he could definitely win a spot. Bang! While the Emperor was still rejoicing over handing the high-grade Emperor talisman to Senior Dragon City, the battle over there had already come to an end. Without a doubt. The winner was Ninglu. Like Ao Xing, after fighting for a while, Ninglu seized a flaw of Long and defeated it, losing its combat strength. You are indeed strong. The Emperor collected his thoughts and gave Ninglu a thumbs up. He then turned to look at Senior Dragon City and said in a deep voice, "Don't embarrass the Divine Wind Empire. You can only win this battle, not lose." The Emperor's tone was very heavy. There was no other way. He could not lose again. If he were to lose this battle, then he really wouldn't be able to send anyone to the Sacred Mountain. The other Empire-level forces would all send people to the Holy Mountain. Normally, the Holy Mountain envoys would turn a blind eye because they had the spots. But this time, due to Ningyu and the others stirring up trouble, it was very likely that the Divine Wind Empire would not get a single spot. This was something that the Emperor could not tolerate no matter what. Yes. Senior Dragon City nodded his head heavily. Subsequently, Senior Dragon City slowly walked to the front of Ningyu, slowly raised his right hand and said, "You are very strong, but I will not hold back." Crack. His voice faded. Senior Dragon City's bones began to change. Moreover, as his bones changed, Senior Dragon City's cultivation also soared rapidly. Bang! 1 second later, a terrifying aura exuded from Senior Dragon City's body. Rank 6 Emperor. At this moment, Senior Dragon City actually broke through the limit, and his cultivation reached rank 6 Emperor realm. My god, my god. Feeling the aura exuding from Senior Dragon City, Ningyu did not say anything, but beside him, Ninglu and Ao Xing cursed at the same time. Senior Dragon City had such a trump card. He was just a peak rank 5 Emperor just now, and now his bones had some changes, and his cultivation actually broke through to rank 6 Emperor realm. Wasn't the speed of his cultivation a little too fast? The Emperor's means are indeed very high. Zhu Jiahao looked at the Emperor with a cold expression, and said in a low voice, "You even gave him such a good thing. Looks like his position in your heart is higher than Crown Prince's." Envoy is too serious. The Emperor smiled faintly and said, "That is Senior Dragon City's own fortuitous encounter. I can't very well deprive him of it, right? Alright, enough nonsense. Let's watch the spar between Senior Dragon City and Ningyu. In my opinion, this battle is probably the most exciting one. Ningyu, do you have any problems?" Zhu Jiahao turned to look at Ningyu and asked. If Senior Dragon City was only a peak rank 5 Emperor, then Zhu Jiahao definitely would not stop him. However, Senior Dragon City advanced to rank 6 Emperor. If he let Ningyu spar with him, the possibility of failure was higher. Failure did not matter. What Zhu Jiahao was worried about was that Ningyu would be injured by Senior Dragon City. Chapter 2559. Chapter 2559. Chapter 2559. Shadow no problem. Ningyu's expression was grave. If Long Da was only a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor, or even a half-step rank 6 quasi-emperor, he would not be worried. This was because after he advanced to the early rank 4 quasi-emperor, his overall strength was no weaker than an ordinary half-step rank 6 quasi-emperor. However, Long Da's bones changed, and his cultivation rose to the rank 6 quasi-emperor realm. Against a rank 6 quasi-emperor, to be honest, Ningyu did not have absolute confidence. In fact, his chances of victory were less than 50%. After all, the gap between a rank 6 quasi-emperor and a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor was huge. Only when Ningyu advanced to the late rank 4 quasi-emperor realm, or even the peak rank 4 quasi-emperor realm, could he face Long Da head-on. Since there's no problem, let's begin. The Emperor Lord was afraid that Ningyu would go back on his word. He waved his hand and said, "Long Da, you were a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor before and could go all out. But now that you've advanced to the rank 6 quasi-emperor realm, you must control your strength. Remember not to injure Ningyu." Understood. Long Da nodded. "Please." Turning around, Long Da looked at Ningyu and said, "I'll let you make the first move." Swish. Ningyu would not be courteous with Long Da. He leaped up and dashed out at a terrifying speed. As he moved forward, he channeled the energy in his body into the red demon sword and slashed through the air. Whoosh! A huge sword light pierced through the void and arrived before Long Da break. Long Da clenched his right fist and punched out. Crack! The next moment, a crisp sound rang out. Following that, the huge sword light that Ningyu slashed out shattered on the spot and dissipated between heaven and earth. This short exchange ended with Ningyu's complete defeat. "Is that all you have?" After one move, Long Da's lips curled up slightly. "If I had known, I would have used the cultivation of a peak rank 5 quasi-emperor to fight you." Ningyu was not affected by Long Da. He took a deep breath and quietly transferred the energy he had absorbed from the divine wind pond into the red demon sword. He had originally intended to leave this energy for the Dark Emperor and the others to devour. But now, in order to deal with Long Da, he had no choice but to use them in advance. "The second move will defeat you. While Ning Yu was secretly transferring his energy, Long Da's right hand clenched into a fist and punched out once again. Scorpion Tyrant Fist. Following Long Da's low roar, Lin Yun's expression changed. His fist arrived in front of Ning Yu and smashed fiercely at Ning Yu's head. On top of Long Da's fist, one could vaguely see a scorpion raising its tail, wanting to drill into Ning Yu's head. Retreat. Seeing this, Zhu Jiahao's pupils shrank as he hurriedly said. Not only Zhu Jiahao. Ning Lu and Ao Xing's expressions changed drastically. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell. Long Da did not want to spar with Ning Yu. His punch was obviously meant to kill Ning Yu. Swish. At the critical moment, Zhu Jiahao leaped up and wanted to stop Long Da. But the emperor also leaped up and stood in front of Zhu Jiahao. He said indifferently, "We agreed that it was a spar. Why does the divine envoy want to intervene? Divine Wind Emperor, don't make a mistake. To tell you the truth, Ning Yu is someone the great emperor wants. If he dies here, your divine Wind Empire will have to pay with your life," Zhu Jiahao said fiercely. He was so angry that the veins all over his body were bulging. If Ning Yu was unfortunately killed by Long Da, then he would be in trouble. "Humph. You're scaring me." The emperor snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, "You agreed to the spar between Ning Yu and Long Da. Now they are at a critical moment of the spar, and you insist on interfering. Even if the great emperor steps in, you can't blame me." The emperor's attitude might seem firm on the surface. However, he secretly became cautious and even began to transmit his voice to Long Da, asking him to spare Ning Yu's life. Go. Ning Yu did not pay any attention to the argument between Zhu Jiahao and the emperor. Not only did he insert all his energy into the red demon sword, he even inserted the great Tao of devouring into it and executed the 4 forms of the divine battle god. Even a lion would use its full strength to capture a rabbit, let alone Long Da, a 6th-tier quasi-emperor. You overestimate yourself. Long Da's lips curled upward as he said sinisterly, a mere 4th-tier quasi-emperor dares to, however. Long Da's words came to an abrupt halt. Crack. A crisp sound could be heard. Ah. Following this, a miserable cry like that of a pig being slaughtered came from Long Da's mouth. What? How is this possible? This, the sudden turn of events caused the eyes of the cultivators in the Divine Wind Hall to widen, their faces filled with disbelief. Defeated. The 6th-tier quasi-emperor Long Da had actually lost to the 4th-tier quasi-emperor Ning Yu. Long Da has not been defeated yet. The emperor's face was ashen as he said in a low voice, "If I don't use it now, then when? You forced me to do this." Long Da's expression was cold as he immediately retrieved a talisman from his bosom and tossed it into the air. Swish. However, Ning Yu had been guarding against Long Da all along. He had just tossed the talisman into the air when Ning Yu rose from the ground. At the same time, he released all his soul power and forcefully severed the connection between Long Da and the talisman. Furthermore, Ning Yu opened the red demon sword and absorbed the talisman. You. Long Da's mouth was agape when he saw Ning Yu accept the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman. He even stuttered. That was a high-grade quasi-emperor talisman. What exactly was Ning Yu's flying sword? How could it swallow a high-grade quasi-emperor talisman? Of course. This was not the reason why Long Da was surprised. The reason why he was surprised was that his soul power was forcefully severed. Could it be? Zhu Jiahao made a move. Otherwise, with the strength of his rank 6 quasi-emperor soul power, there was no reason for him to be weaker than Ning Yu. You've lost. Although Ning Yu was secretly excited after receiving Long Da's quasi-emperor talisman, he looked very calm on the surface. He looked at Long Da and said calmly, "A rank 6 quasi-emperor is not necessarily very powerful. In fact, Ning Yu's victory in this battle was partly due to luck." Fortunately, Long Da was arrogant and did not use the high-grade quasi-emperor talisman immediately. Otherwise, it was almost impossible for him to easily defeat Long Da Divine Wind Emperor. Ning Yu won this battle. "I'm sorry, but you did not get a single quota to enter the sacred mountain." Zhu Jiahao stood up and said in a clear voice, This matter cannot be delayed. I still have to go back and report. I'll bring Ningyu and the others to the sacred mountain now. I won't send you off, the emperor said with a cold expression. He suffered a crushing defeat in this contest. The few genius experts of the Divine Wind Empire did not even win a single match. His plan was declared to have failed. Whoosh! Zhu Jiahao did not linger. He immediately brought Ningyu and sped out of the Divine Wind Palace. After Zhu Jiahao and the others left, the emperor waved his hand and said coldly to the void beside him, "An Ying, you go personally. You must kill Ningyu and the others on their way to the sacred mountain." "Emperor, where's His Highness the Crown Prince?" A hoarse voice came from the void. Chapter 2560. There were a total of 3 forbidden areas in the 100 Forest Weave. Hungduan Mountain Range, Endless Sea, Myriad Demon Forest. From the Divine Wind Empire to the Sacred Mountain, the shortest route was to first use the Space Teleportation Array, then pass through the 10,000 Demon Forest, and finally use the Space Teleportation Array to reach the foot of the Sacred Mountain. When he arrived, Zhu Jiahao and the others did not choose to go through the 10,000 Demon Forest because they had enough time. However, on his way back, Zhu Jiahao suddenly received a message from the Holy Mountain saying that the Holy Mountain Assembly would be held in advance. He felt helpless. Zhu Jiahao and the others could only choose to pass through the 10,000 Demon Forests. Swish swish swish. In front of the 10,000 Demons Forest, Ningyu and the others landed. Ever since leaving the Divine Wind Pool, Ningyu had returned directly to Yang Yuming's residence. He brought the Dark Emperor and the others along and placed them into the Red Demon Sword. Even Mo Xiao of the Dragon War Empire was brought along by Ningyu. After entering the 10,000 Demon Forest, "Everyone stay close to me. Do not release your aura." Zhu Jiahao took out a token from his bosom and said in a deep voice, "This token has been blessed by a great emperor. It is the pass to the 10,000 Demon Forest." During the conversation, Zhu Jiahao leapt up and was the first to rush into the 10,000 Demon Forest. "Retreat quickly." However, before Zhu Jiahao entered the 10,000 Demon Forest, his pupils shrank and he quickly retreated. Bang! Even though Zhu Jiahao's retreat speed was very fast, he was still hit in the chest by a cultivator who appeared out of thin air. His body flew out and fell heavily to the ground. Even the token was taken away by the other party. The 10,000 Demon token has been blessed by the Great Emperor before. The cultivator who appeared in the air looked at the medallion in his hand. Then, he said in a hoarse voice, "I originally thought that this operation would be boring. However, it looks like it is rather interesting. How dare you steal the Great Emperor's token?" Zhu Jiahao's expression changed, and he said coldly, "Aren't you afraid of being hunted down by the Great Emperor? Hunted by a great sovereign? Hee hee." The martial artist that appeared in the void smiled faintly and said, "I've heard a little about the situation in Sacred Mountain. There are countless envoys like you. If I kill you and take away the Great Emperor's token, who would know that I did it? You're courting death." Zhu Jiahao shouted angrily. As an emissary of the Sacred Mountain, he had been to many places. You could say so. Within the 100 Forest Weave, only this black-robed cultivator dared to openly block the road. Who else would dare to oppose the Sacred Mountain? Are they from the Shoti-O Weave? Zhu Jiahao frowned and thought to himself. The people from the 100 Forest Weave wouldn't dare to attack him. This was something that he was 100% certain of. Recently, there had been some friction between the Shoti-O Weave and the 100 Forest Weave, and they were competing against each other. In the past, Shoti-O Weave might not have attacked them, but this time, it was a matter of life and death for 2 weaves. Shoti-O Weave might very well take the risk. After all, Ning Road, this world tree, was the key of the key. I'm familiar with this person. Yang Yuming's expression changed slightly. He didn't know why, but he felt like he had seen this black-robed martial artist somewhere before. Hua! At this moment, the void in the distance split open again. 2 martial artists appeared from the void. It's you. Yang Yuming was very familiar with the 2 martial artists that appeared this time. Not only was Yang Yuming familiar with it, Even Zhu Jiahao had heard of it. Yang Zhaokai. Qin He. He was right. These two were Yang Zhaokai and Qin He. However, Yang Zhaokai's cultivation had already broken through to the early 4th Order Quasi-Emperor realm. Even Yang Zhaokai had reached the early 6th Order Quasi-Emperor realm. That's us. Looks like you're smart enough to know that we're back. Yang Zhaokai raised his brows and looked at Yang Yuming with interest. Tell me, how do you want to die? Are you going to be killed by me, or commit suicide? Stupid teammate. And Ying was so angry that his nose was crooked. With his 7th Order Quasi-Emperor cultivation, killing Ningyu and the others should have been a piece of cake. Moreover, he didn't have to worry about being exposed. But now, the appearance of Yang Zhaokai and Qin He was clearly telling Yang Yuming and the others that the Divine Wind Empire wanted to kill them. Once Zhu Jiahao sent the news back to the Sacred Mountain, the consequences would be unimaginable. Forget it, I'll use a high-grade talisman. And Ying sighed softly, then took out a talisman from his bosom and threw it into the air. Boom! In a split second, several beams of light shot out from the talisman, surrounding Zhu Jiahao and Ningyu. High-grade Quasi-Emperor Talisman. There were several types. The combat type, like the talisman that Long Da used earlier. Of course, Ningyu had already stored it into the Red Demon Sword. The defense type, like the one that An Ying was using now, surrounded the surroundings, making it difficult for the people inside to get out, and difficult for the people outside to get in. Go. An Ying did not waste words. He directly attacked, charging at Zhu Jiahao and the remaining 2 6th Order Quasi-Emperors. Among Ningyu's group, Zhu Jiahao was an early 6th Order Quasi-Emperor, and so were Xiehu and Xiejiao. An Ying's thinking was very simple. He was responsible for killing Zhu Jiahao and the others, while Yang Zhaokai and Qin He would deal with Ningyu and the others. With Qin his early 6th Order Quasi-Emperor cultivation, even if he could not kill Ningyu, he could still delay them. As long as he could buy himself 3 minutes, everything would be over. Explode. The ideal was very rich, but the reality was very harsh. An Ying had just started fighting with Zhu Jiahao and the others. Before a minute had passed, Ningyu let out a low shout and directly detonated the high-grade Quasi-Emperor talisman that he had obtained from Long Da Rumble. An Ying was slightly taken aback by the loud explosion. He had forgotten about this. Ningyu had snatched away Long Da's high-grade talisman. The appearance of Yang Zhaokai and Qin He had delayed some time. Ningyu was not a fool. He would definitely activate the high-grade Quasi-Emperor talisman. Fart. Fart. The power of a high-grade Quasi-Emperor talisman was extremely powerful. Qin He and Yang Zhaokai were blasted away on the spot, landing heavily on the ground. After defeating Qin He and Yang Zhaokai in one move, Ningyu did not stay where he was. Instead, he charged at An Ying with Ninglu and Aoxing. As for Yang Zhaokai and Qin He, they were handed over to Yang Yuming to deal with. Although Yang Yuming's cultivation was only peak rank 3 Quasi-Emperor, he had no problem dealing with the heavily injured Yang Zhaokai and Qin He. Ha ha ha, good. Today, the 6 of us will join hands and kill this high-grade Quasi-Emperor. With the addition of Ningyu and Aoxing, Zhu Jiahao threw his head back and laughed wildly, becoming full of confidence. The strength of Ningyu and Aoxing were very powerful. With the 6 of them joining hands, they might really be able to kill a high-grade Quasi-Emperor. Bang! Bang! It was very obvious. Zhu Jiahao was happy a little too early. An Ying forcefully sent out 2 punches. One landed on Xiehu, and the other on Xiejiao. Each of these 2 punches contained horrifying energy fluctuations. Xiehu and Xiejiao only lasted for a moment before their bodies were sent flying backward. Swoosh! The sudden change made Zhu Jiahao's heart sink to the bottom. He seemed to have overestimated the strength of his side, muttering about the strength of a high-grade Quasi-Emperor. Chapter 2561. Chapter 2561. Chapter 2561. Carelessness. Overestimating yourselves. Do you think a bunch of nobodies like you are qualified to stop me? After defeating Xiehu and Xiejiao with 2 punches, An Ying's lips curled up slightly. He looked at Zhu Jiahao and said coldly, "The geniuses of the sacred mountain are nothing more than this. After today, the sacred mountain will have 3 less no, 3 less trash." Swoosh. His voice faded. And Ying's figure flashed and immediately charged at Zhu Jiahao. Damn it. Zhu Jiahao cursed inwardly. Among the 3 envoys of the sacred mountain, Xie Hu and Xie Jiao were relatively weak and not very strong. However, even if they were not strong, they could contend head-on with a peak rank 6 quasi-emperor. But even so, Xie Hu and Xie Jiao were still easily defeated, not even able to block a single move. Split up and run. Zhu Jiahao hurriedly transmitted his soul to Ning Yu and Ao Xing, saying, "A high-level quasi-emperor is very powerful. With our strength, there is no way we can contend against him. You guys enter the 10,000 demon forest. I will try to block this high-level quasi-emperor for 3 seconds." In Zhu Jiahao's heart, the lives of Ning Yu and the others were much more important than his. After all, they were the people that the emperor personally wanted. There must be no mistakes. Block me for 3 seconds. I can defeat a trash like you in 1 move. And Ying did not slow down. He suddenly accelerated and arrived in front of Zhu Jiahao. His right hand clenched into a fist, and with a violent energy wave, he punched at Zhu Jiahao's head. This punch was powerful and heavy. Even if Zhu Jiahao had a trump card, he absolutely could not withstand it. Stop. At the critical moment, Ning Yu raised his head and shouted coldly, "If you don't want Yang Zhaokai to die, stop as soon as possible. Otherwise, Yang Zhaokai will die without a doubt." Swoosh. Ning Yu's words caused An Ying to be slightly taken aback. Yang Zhaokai. According to the emperor, he killed Yang Yuming, so Yang Zhaokai was naturally the crown prince of the Divine Wind Empire. But now, Yang Zhaokai thought he was clever and came to encircle Ning Yu and the others, but eventually fell into Ning Yu's hands. Shadow had no doubt about it. If he really killed Zhu Jiahao, Ning Yu would definitely kill Yang Zhaokai without mercy. After cursing silently, An Ying had no choice but to stop his attacks. He turned to look at Ning Yu and said, "Do you think I care about Yang Zhaokai's life or death?" "You don't care." Ning Yu exerted some force in his right hand, raised the red demon sword, and slashed at Yang Zhaokai's right arm. Catcher. Then, a crisp sound rang out. Yang Zhaokai's right arm was directly cut off by Ning Yu. Actually, Ning Yu had to thank Shadow for cutting off Yang Zhaokai's arm. The high-rank quasi-emperor talisman that he used enveloped Yang Zhaokai, Yang Yuming, and the others inside. Otherwise, given Ning Yu's strength, he really had no way to break the defense of a high-ranked quasi-emperor talisman. "You're courting death." And Ying looked coldly at Ning Yu and said fiercely, "I'll say it one last time, if you know what's good for you, release Yang Zhaokai as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are so red." Catcher. In response to An Ying, Ning Yu's red demon sword slashed down again. Without a doubt, Yang Zhaokai's left arm was forcefully cut off. Damn it. An Ying's face was ashen. If Ning Yu had only cut off Yang Zhaokai's arms, he would not be so nervous. After all, Yang Zhaokai had already advanced to the middle-rank quasi-emperor and could completely regenerate his arm. But, according to this trend, the next thing Ning Yu would cut off would be Yang Zhaokai's legs, and then his head. Once his head was cut off, Yang Zhaokai's life would come to an end. Release Zhu Jiahao. Ning Yu did not play by the rules. He placed the red demon sword on Yang Zhaokai's neck and said coldly, "I don't want to say the same thing twice." Scram. An Ying's eyes flickered. Finally, he lifted his right leg and kicked Zhu Jiahao toward Ning Yu. Bang. Ning Yu continued to place the red demon sword on Yang Zhaokai's neck. Yang Yuming, who was beside him, was responsible for catching Zhu Jiahao. In fact, Xie Hu and Xie Jiao also dragged their heavy footsteps to stand beside Ning Yu. "I advise you to surrender as soon as possible, because you won't be able to leave." An Ying crossed his arms in front of his chest and regained his composure. Unless a high-level quasi-emperor makes a move, no one can break the defense set up by a high-level quasi-emperor talisman. "Is that so?" Ning Yu raised his eyebrows. "Do you dare to make a bet with me?" "Bet? What bet?" An Ying was slightly taken aback, but he still asked. If I can break the defense set up by a high-level quasi-emperor talisman with one punch, then you will let us go. Ningyu casually tossed young Zhaokai to Ao Xing and said calmly with the red demon sword in his hand. Are you that confident in yourself? And Ying was somewhat confused. What exactly was Ningyu up to? Not to mention a rank 4 quasi-emperor, even a peak rank 6 quasi-emperor might not be able to break the defense. Could it be that Ningyu had a trump card? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. However, An Ying did not expose Ningyu. He thought for a moment, then said, I'll give you this chance. One move. If you can break the defense in one move, I will let you go. But if you can't break the defense in one move, then you will all die. Deal. Ningyu shrugged. Given Ningyu's current mental state, it was impossible for him to break the defense in one move. However, Ningyu was not a hothead. Just now, Ninglu, Ao Xing, and even Zhu Jiahao and Yang Yuming had quietly injected their energy into his body. After gathering the energy of so many people, the power of Ningyu's next punch would depend on the power of an ordinary early rank 7 quasi-emperor. Of course, Ningyu was not stupid enough to reveal his trump card so quickly. He raised his right leg and kicked Qin He in front of him. Looking at An Ying, Ningyu said, You don't mind if I devour this trash in front of you, right? I don't mind. An Ying had an indifferent expression. Qin He was only an early rank 6 quasi-emperor. Even if Ningyu devoured him, could his cultivation rise to the middle rank 4? Not to mention whether he could raise his cultivation to the middle rank 4, even if he could, An Ying was not worried. Because a middle rank 4 quasi-emperor could not break the defense set up by a high-level quasi-emperor talisman. That's good. Ningyu moved forward slightly and stepped on Qin He's chest with his right foot. A terrifying devouring power instantly emerged. A miserable scream came from Qin He's mouth. Young master, save me. Young master, save me. Qin He did not ask An Ying for help, because he knew that even if he asked An Ying for help, An Ying would not help him. Only by asking young Zhaokai for help would he have a chance to live. Ningyu, don't go too far. Young Zhaokai's expression was cold as he said, Qin He is my man. If you let him go, I can plead on your behalf and let you leave alive. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Ningyu curled his lips and said indifferently, If you want Qin He to live, let that high-level quasi-emperor break the defense first. There's no need to discuss anything else. Qin He was the key. Ningyu would not let him go. Chapter 2562. Plot. Ningyu had already thought about it. He swallowed Qin He and did not think about breaking through to the middle 4th rank quasi-emperor. Instead, he wanted to keep the energy in Qin He's body and use it to attack the defense set up by the high-level quasi-emperor talisman. The energy in the body of an early 6th rank quasi-emperor naturally could not break through the defense. In that case, An Ying would very likely seize the opportunity to attack. Once An Ying attacked, he would fall right into Ningyu's trap. Ningyu was not a fool. He thought more. Even if he broke through the defense, An Ying would never let them leave. Rather than that, he might as well plot against An Ying. He might even succeed. As Ningyu swallowed Qin He screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Ningyu did not deliberately speed up and even slowed down a little. It took him a full 10 minutes to completely devour Qin He, turning him into a piece of human skin. Mission accomplished. Ningyu kicked Qin He away before moving his feet and slowly walking towards Umbra's side. In order to act more realistically, Ningyu took the risk of being attacked by An Ying and moved slightly closer to him. To tell the truth, Ningyu's heart beat much faster. At this moment, as long as An Ying attacked, the possibility of Ningyu being killed would be very high. Therefore, Ningyu was highly focused, paying close attention to the changes in An Ying's expression. Go. After confirming that An Ying had no intention of launching a sneak attack, Ningyu pretended to transfer the energy that he had swallowed Qin He to his fist and threw a punch at the defense around him. Crack. Crack. The energy in a 6th rank quasi-emperor was still very strong. Ningyu's punch directly caused the defense to make cracking sounds, as if it was about to shatter. Far from enough. And Ying watched all this coldly. How could the energy in a mere 6th rank quasi-emperor break through the defense? Shadow's thoughts were simple. Once Ningyu showed the slightest sign of weakness, he would immediately attack and kill Ningyu by force. Or in other words, they didn't want to kill Ningyu, they just wanted to capture Ningyu. In that case, they could at least use Ningyu to exchange for young Zhaokai. What are you waiting for? Ningyu didn't seem too disappointed when he failed to break through Shadow's defense. Instead, he kept his perception on Shadow. It was just an act. If he couldn't deceive An Ying, what was the point of putting on an act this time? His eyes darted around. With a thought, Ningyu stimulated his body and forcefully spat out a mouthful of blood. Poochie. Dark red blood spurted out. Ningyu's face also turned a little pale. Now, as soon as Ningyu spat out a mouthful of blood, An Ying seized the opportunity to leap forward. An Ying's speed was very fast. Almost in an instant, he arrived in front of Ningyu. There was no hesitation. An Ying clenched his right fist and punched out at Ningyu's head. It seemed that An Ying's punch was powerful, but it wasn't. In order to prevent Ningyu from being killed, An Ying only used 80% of his strength. 80% of his strength could easily defeat Ningyu, but it wouldn't be enough to kill him. Good chance. An Ying's forceful attack made Ningyu overjoyed. He had been waiting for this moment. An Ying didn't know that he had gathered a lot of energy in his body and arrogantly didn't use his full strength. Boom. Similarly, he clenched his right fist. Ningyu didn't use any fancy moves and punched out. Bang. In an instant, Ningyu's fist collided with An Ying's. Two fists collided. Ningyu didn't move from his spot, but Dark Shadow was sent flying several feet away. He only stopped when his body collided with the defensive wall behind him. Poochie. An Ying spat out a mouthful of blood. An Ying's aura began to drop rapidly. In a short period of time, An Ying's aura had already dropped to the peak of the 6th rank quasi-emperor realm. Come back. An Ying's expression changed dramatically as his aura dropped. He immediately withdrew the high-level quasi-emperor talisman and held it in his hand. He looked at Ningyu warily and said, "You cheated." Cheated? Haha, Ningyu smiled faintly and said, "How can it be called cheating when I'm a mortal enemy? Moreover, it was you who attacked me first. I shouldn't be the one who cheated, but you who didn't keep your word. Originally, I had already planned to surrender, but you insisted on attacking me. What else could I do? I can't just give up, can I?" An Ying's expression was gloomy. Although Ningyu's punch did not kill him, it made his aura drop seriously. At the very least, his strength had dropped by more than half. Under such circumstances, he did not dare to fight with Ningyu anymore. Who knew if Ningyu still had a trump card? It was fine if he did not have a trump card, but once he had a trump card, if he forcefully attacked again, the consequences would be unimaginable. It's over, it's all over. Seeing An Ying being repelled by Ningyu, young Zhaokai's face turned pale, his heart sinking to the bottom. At this time, young Zhaokai was very regretful. If he had known earlier, he definitely would not have come. He originally thought that with An Ying, a high-level quasi-emperor, around, he could fish in troubled waters and take revenge. Who would have thought? Even a high-level quasi-emperor An Ying was defeated. Now, he just did not know if the emperor had a backup. If the emperor had a backup, it would be fine. If he did not, he and An Ying would both die here. Go! Ningyu did not continue to attack, but grabbed young Zhaokai's arm and dashed straight towards the 10,000 demon forest. Swoosh! The moment Ningyu left, Ninglu, Zhu Jiahao and the rest hurriedly followed. Staying any longer was clearly courting death. Just now, Ningyu's attack had drained all the energy in everyone's body. At this time, forget about An Ying, even an ordinary rank 1 quasi-emperor was enough to easily kill them. What's going on? The sudden departure of Ningyu and the rest made An Ying a little dumbfounded. He did not know what price Ningyu paid for that move. He only knew that his current combat strength had dropped, and it was not suitable to pursue. If Ningyu could still use the same move, then he would die without a doubt. Wait for me to recuperate first. An Ying took a deep breath and took out a jade bottle from his bosom. Crack. Without hesitation, he directly threw the jade bottle into his mouth and chewed. The jade bottle shattered, and a few medicinal pills entered his body through An Ying's throat. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely notice that all of these pills were at the peak of the initial stage Emperor rank. It was indeed a waste for An Ying to swallow several peak early Emperor rank medicinal pills at once. However, the effects of peak early Emperor rank medicinal pills were still very good. After swallowing a few peak early Emperor rank medicinal pills, An Ying's injuries recovered at an extremely fast speed. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes had passed. In 10 minutes, several peak early Emperor rank medicinal pills had been consumed. An Ying's cultivation had completely recovered to its peak state. In fact, his strength had also improved. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.